This bride was seconds away from saying I do, and then boom, a helicopter crashes the wedding. Everybody thought Charlotte was marrying the perfect golden boy attorney. Rich, polished, untouchable. But plot twist. The guy had a whole secret family, blackmailed her into the wedding, and thought he had already won. What he did not expect, the ex she texted after 7 years of silence, was already in the shadows. And this man did not come back to beg. He came back to take her. In front of the guests, in front of the groom, in front of everyone. One wedding, one psychopath fiancé, one ghost from the past, and the nastiest public humiliation that man ever saw in his life.
Heels. 2 hours, that's it. 2 hours until Charlotte Bennett was supposed to lock down a lifetime with one of Chicago's hottest lawyers. But nah. Instead, she's locked in the bridal suite, Heels, firing off a Hail Mary text to the one guy who ever actually wrecked her heart. If you still want me, come get me. She had zero clue, did she? That for years Ethan Hayes had been playing ghost, lurking in the shadows of her life, Heels. A silent guardian just waiting for this exact crack in her picture-perfect world. So when the sound of chopper blades rips through the wedding music and a stone-cold silhouette steps out to claim her in front of God and everybody, Heels, Charlotte's entire life gets absolutely torched, exposing the lies both men were hiding. If you're tuned in tonight, smash that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this train wreck echoes. Now let's rewind, Heels, back to where the first tiny fracture showed up. Heels. Charlotte Bennett's whole brand was this. She could read people. It was her superpower, passed down from her mom who could smell a lie from across a room, and her dad who built a Chicago construction empire by trusting his gut on who was solid and who would fold. Charlotte was raised on the little tells, how someone stands, the shake in their voice, that flash in the eyes right before a lie hits. So when she finally looks back on it all, the thing that gutted her wasn't that Nathan Calloway played her, Heels. It was that some quiet, deep-down part of her saw it coming the whole time, and she chose to look the other way. The first red flag, the first little tremor, drops on a Tuesday afternoon, just 3 weeks before the wedding, Heels. Charlotte's on her way to meet Nathan for lunch, hitting up the spot where they first met. His idea, all sweet and sentimental, hitting her right in the feels. But then he cancels. 20 minutes out. A text, of course. Client emergency, she's bummed, Heels. Whatever, but she gets it. Nathan's a partner at a monster law firm in Chicago. Emergencies are just part of the job. She's walking back to her car when she spots him. Half a block down, outside some random coffee joint she's never seen him go to, Heels. And he is not alone. He's with a woman. Dark hair, cute. She's holding a little kid, maybe 3 years old. And Nathan's hand is right there on the small of her back. The exact same possessive, gentle way he always touched Charlotte. It was so familiar, Heels, so casual, Heels. The woman's laughing at something he said, and the kid, the little boy, is reaching up with his sticky fingers toward Nathan's face, and Nathan leans down and kisses the boy's forehead. Charlotte just freezes on the sidewalk. Her brain literally could not compute. A sister, maybe? His partner's wife? There had to be a simple, logical reason that would make her feel like an idiot for the cold dread flooding her system. But Nathan doesn't have a sister, Heels. And the way that woman looked at him, you don't give your husband's colleague that look. She didn't say a word. She couldn't. She just turned around, a ghost on the street, and walked back to her car, Heels. Her hand was shaking so bad it took her 3 tries just to get the key in the lock. The drive home was a total blur, her mind just a storm of scenarios, each one worse than the last. You're freaking out over nothing, she told herself, Heels. Just ask him tonight, play it cool, and he'll have some simple explanation and you'll laugh about it. The lies she fed herself that afternoon. She didn't believe a single one. That night, Nathan shows up with roses and a perfect apology for ditching lunch, Heels. He kisses her, he cooks for her, he asks about her day curating the art gallery. The perfect fiancé, charming, attentive, a complete fraud. But watching him move around her kitchen, grabbing wine glasses from her cabinets like he owned the place, Heels, a deep chill ran down her spine. Heels. She was staring at a total stranger. Nathan, she started, keeping her voice perfectly level. Where were you today? He didn't even flinch. I told you, babe. Client meeting. The Henderson case is a total dumpster fire. Which coffee shop? He stopped, looked right at her. What? You said you were at the office. I was just wondering which coffee shop you were at when I tried to call you. His face stayed a perfect mask, but his eyes went dead, a flash of pure ice. Heels. I never said I was at a coffee shop. I was in the office. Right, Charlotte whispered. My bad. For then. But sleep? Not happening. She's lying next to Nathan in the dark, the sound of his breathing just mocking her. Heels. And she tried to figure out when exactly she'd stopped trusting her gut. She tried to remember when the fantasy of being safe became more important than the actual truth, and the answer hits her in the dead of night, around 3 in the morning. Heels. It all started the day Ethan Hayes straight up vanished from her life. Ethan. Damn. Even now, 7 long years later, that name is a ghost pain, a deep bruise on her soul that never really went away. Charlotte had gotten real good at forgetting him. Heels. Building up walls around those memories so high that most days she could almost pretend they weren't even there. But tonight, lying there with Nathan's lie stinking up the air, every single one of those walls came crashing down. Heels. She was 17 years old the first time she saw Ethan Hayes. He just appeared on their front porch one afternoon in September, holding one single black trash bag with his whole life inside, and wearing a look that was braced for impact. Charlotte's dad found him on a job site, working under the table, just trying to scrape by. Heels. He was 16, skinny as a rail, and so closed off he barely said a word. His mother passed last month, her dad told her and her mom in a low voice. Foster care is a nightmare. Kid's been living in a buddy's car. Heels. I told him he could have the guest room for a while, until we get things sorted. Charlotte's mom, whose answer to everything was a hot meal, bolted straight for the kitchen, and Charlotte, who'd been pissed about her afternoon being interrupted, Heels, took one look at Ethan's face and felt something inside her just break. He was terrified. He was trying so hard to hide it, but it was all right there in his eyes. Bathrooms upstairs, she heard herself say, her voice way softer than she intended. Heels. Second door. There's clean towels in the closet if you want to shower. Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. Ethan just stared at her like she was speaking a different language. Then, so quiet she almost didn't hear it. Thank you. Heels. And that's how the whole thing kicked off. Ethan stayed. A week turned into 2. 2 weeks became a month. Her parents became his foster parents, and boom, just like that, Charlotte had something she never expected, a brother. Except he never, Heels, not for 1 second, felt like a brother. At first he was a ghost in their house, quiet, careful, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. He did his chores without being asked, kept his room spotless, Heels, and used please and thank you like they were shields that could stop him from being abandoned. Every single day after school, every weekend, he was out there working construction with her dad, hoarding every dollar he made. Heels. He never talked about his mom or his old life or anything that left a mark. And Charlotte could see the guy was made of nothing but scars. But slowly, one painful inch at a time, he started to drop the armor. He started laughing at her dumb jokes. Heels. He'd argue with her about which movie to watch. He moved from the lonely armchair to the spot right next to her on the couch, and he started to look at her, not like she was the daughter of the people who took him in, Heels, but like she was something else entirely. Charlotte fell for him like you fall asleep. First slow, then all at once. It happened the night she turned 18. Her parents threw this huge party. The whole neighborhood was there. The cake was a sugar bomb, Heels. Ethan, like always, just hung back on the edges, a silent observer. But later, after everyone was gone and Charlotte was cleaning the kitchen by herself, he came out of the shadows with a small, badly wrapped box in his hand. Heels. I had no clue what to get you, he mumbled, not quite making eye contact, but I saw it and it made me think of you. Inside was a silver bracelet, simple, delicate, with one tiny charm, a bird flying. It must have cost him a fortune in weekend pay. Ethan, Heels. You shouldn't have. You're always talking about leaving, he cut her off, his voice low. About Paris, the museums, all that. I know you're going to fly away from here someday, Heels. I wanted you to have something to remember, that someone was watching you get your wings, Heels. Charlotte finally looks up at him, and there he is, this broken, cautious dude who learned to bury every single feeling under a mountain of silence, but she could see the cracks in his armor, Heels. She saw him looking at her like she was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. I don't want to fly away from you, she whispers. Charlotte, for real, I don't care what happens. I don't care where I am. I want you with me. And then he kisses her, Heels. It's soft, hesitant, and absolutely perfect. In that 1 second, the whole world just tilted. At first, they kept it a secret. They were terrified of what her parents would say, terrified of messing up the fragile peace Ethan had finally found. Eels. But secrets can't breathe in a house that small. They don't stay buried. It took her mom a week to see it, and when she did, there was zero anger, no disappointment. She just grabbed their hands and said, "Take care of each other, Eels. You're both precious, and if one of you breaks, I'll have 2 broken kids instead of 1." Her dad was quieter, more watchful, but he never shut it down. He just cornered Ethan one afternoon and made him promise, with a dead serious intensity, to always treat her right. And for 2 years he did. 2 whole years of Ethan showing up at her college campus after his dusty construction shifts, coffee in hand, stealing kisses between the library shelves. Eels. For 2 years, Charlotte basically taught Ethan that it was okay to be loved, that he was allowed to have something good in his life. 2 years drawing up plans for a future that, for the first time, felt like something they could actually build. And then, Eels. One Friday night, Ethan just doesn't show for dinner. Charlotte calls him 6 times, texts him over a dozen, radio silence. By midnight, pure panic kicks in. By sunrise, she's pounding on his door, asking neighbors who just shrug, Eels, saying they hadn't seen him in days. The apartment wasn't just empty. It was scrubbed clean, like he was a ghost who'd never even existed. Her dad tried everything, calling in favors, checking work sites, Eels, even filing a missing person report. But Ethan Hayes was gone, totally wiped off the map as if he were just a dream, no letter, no reason. Not even a quick goodbye text, just gone. For months, Charlotte lived in a waking nightmare, Eels, convinced something terrible had happened, that he was hurt or worse. Eels. She barely ate. Sleep was a myth. Her parents watched her, terrified she was just going to fade away. The nightmare finally ended 6 months later when her dad sat her down with the bank statements. The day before he vanished, Eels. Ethan had withdrawn every last dime from his savings. That was the moment Charlotte had to face it. He wasn't taken, he left. He chose to walk away without even giving her a BS lie to soften the blow. And right then, Eels. Something inside Charlotte just froze solid. She stopped crying, stopped looking, and stopped believing love was anything but a dumb story you tell yourself before life shows up to call you a fool. Eels. She finished her degree, landed a sweet job at a gallery, and built a life that was neat, orderly, and most of all, safe. When Nathan Calloway walked into that gallery 2 years ago, radiating success and confidence, Eels, Charlotte saw him as the perfect cure for Ethan Hayes. Nathan had no dark secrets, no drama to get sucked into. What you saw was what you got. He would never just disappear into the night, Eels. Mainly because he'd never make her care enough to even notice he was gone. Except, that wasn't quite right, was it? The morning after seeing Nathan with that woman and the little kid, Eels, Charlotte called in sick and did something she had never once thought about doing. She started going through Nathan's stuff. A wave of disgust hit her, but the desperate need to know was way stronger. His laptop was locked down, but his tablet wasn't, Eels. First she found the emails, dozens of them going back 18 months. The woman's name was Jennifer. She lived in Evanston, in a house Nathan was paying for, Eels. The boy's name was Michael. He was 3 years old, and he was Nathan's son. Charlotte stumbled to the bathroom, her body heaving as she threw up. Shaking, she went back to the tablet and kept digging. The messages were so normal, so domestic. Jennifer reminding Nathan to get diapers. Nathan worried he'd miss Michael's bedtime. Jennifer sending pics from Michael's first day of preschool. Eels. They read like messages between a husband and wife, because that's exactly what they were. Nathan was living 2 completely separate lives. Marriage to Jennifer and an engagement to Charlotte. And Jennifer knew. Oh yeah, Eels. The emails made that crystal clear. She called Charlotte that gallery girl. She complained about how the wedding would be inconvenience, about Nathan's promise that it was all for show, a move he needed for his career. Apparently, Eels. A partnership at his firm came with a certain image. An image Jennifer, according to Nathan, just didn't fit. But Charlotte did. Charlotte was the polished one, the proper one, the one you put in wedding photos and parade in front of clients. Eels. Jennifer was the one he went home to. Charlotte just sat there on the floor of her living room, the entire structure of her life in ruins, and she fought to breathe past the rage. It wasn't heartbreak. She realized, with a weirdly detached feeling, Eels, that her heart felt nothing. Eels. She never loved Nathan enough for that. Nah, this feeling was pure, unfiltered fury. Fury at Nathan for the scam, at Jennifer for playing along, and at herself for being so desperate for safety that she'd ignored every single red flag. She should cancel the wedding. She should throw his crap onto the street, expose him, and ruin him just like he was planning to use her. Her fingers were literally in around her phone to do it when she heard his key turning in her front door. Heels. He walked in with a smile, holding takeout from her favorite spot. Feeling any better, sweetheart? I brought lunch. He stopped cold when he saw her face, his eyes zipping to the tablet in her hand. For a split second, a flash of actual fear crossed his face. Heels. Then it was gone, replaced by a disturbing flat coldness. I can explain, he said, his voice low. I don't want your explanations. Her own voice sounded alien, thin and brittle. I want you to get out. The wedding is off. We are done. Heels. Nathan calmly set the food on the counter. Then he crossed the room, sat on her sofa, and settled in like he owned the joint. No, he said, his tone almost pleasant. We're not. Charlotte could only stare at him, stunned. Excuse me? Heels. The wedding is in 3 weeks, Charlotte. It's all set. My entire firm will be there. The senior partners, our biggest clients, everyone important in my world. I'm not calling it off because your feelings got a little bruised. Heels. My feelings? Nathan, you have an entire secret family. And that, he said, his voice still terrifyingly calm, has absolutely zero to do with you. Jennifer knows the deal. She's totally fine with it. You're the only one making this a problem. I'm calling off the wedding, Charlotte repeated, getting up, needing to put space between them. Heels. And if you're not gone in 60 seconds, I'm calling the police. Nathan actually laughed. A short, sharp, little sound of dismissal. And you'll tell them what exactly? That your fiancé's personal life is a bit complicated? Heels. I'm sure they'll be super concerned. I'll tell everyone. I'll go to your firm. I will. You will do nothing, Nathan cut in, getting up from the sofa. The nice guy mask was starting to crack. Do you have any idea what I do for a living, Charlotte? Heels. I take people's lives apart in court. I find every weak spot, every vulnerability, and I press down until there is nothing left. Do you honestly think you're going to be the one to walk away from me without a scratch? Charlotte's throat went bone dry. Heels. Are you threatening me? I am explaining the reality of your situation. Nathan took a step toward her, and she backed away until she hit the wall. Heels. Your father's construction company, the business that supported your family your entire life. It runs on 1,000 tiny permits and inspections, details that could suddenly get real complicated if the right people started asking questions. Heels. I know people in the city attorney's office, in the inspector general's office. I know people everywhere that matters. You couldn't. I can. I will, and that's just your dad. Your mother, she volunteers at that community center, right? Heels. The one that has to fight for its funding every single year. I just so happen to sit on the board that approves that funding. Heels. So check this out. Your college bestie, the one with the cute little downtown bakery. Turns out she's financed by some shady F loan, a loan that gets called in like yesterday if some banking rules suddenly get real strict. Heels. Charlotte felt her soul leave her body. Why? Why are you doing this? Because this wedding is happening, Nathan said, like he was ordering a coffee. Morrison and Hale is about to make me their youngest senior partner ever, Heels. And that requires a certain image, a hot, smart wife from a good family. You. 6 months, the partnership's solid, we get a quiet divorce. I'll even pay you well for it. You can spin whatever story you want about why we broke up. But in 3 weeks, Heels. You are walking down that aisle, you're going to smile pretty for the cameras, and you will say, I do. Or every single person you care about will pay for it. He said it all with the same ice-cold tone he'd used to read a legal doc, Heels, as if blowing up her life was just a boring little clause. Heels. Charlotte was just frozen, completely pinned by the absolute, psycho-level cruelty of it all. Nathan checks his watch. Gotta get back to the office. Think about it. Really think. Is your pride worth your dad losing every single thing he's ever built? I'll see you Thursday for the cake tasting. Heels. He grabs the takeout, kisses her on the forehead like nothing happened, and just walks out, unreal. Charlotte just slides down the wall and starts shaking. Phone still in her hand. She thinks about who to call. Her parents, the cops, a lawyer, Heels. But it's no use. Nathan wasn't bluffing. He'd ruin them. He had the cash, the power, and the sociopath-level nerve to burn her world down just to prove he could. She'd seen him do it in court, Heels. Heard him brag about finding an enemy's weakest spot and just pressing down. She used to think it was badass, kinda hot even. Never thought she'd be the one getting crushed. She was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped, Heels. And that's when Charlotte's thumb scrolls over to a contact. A number she kept for no good reason. A ghost she swore she'd delete 1,000 times. 7 years. Not one call, she never even looked at the name. But now, she taps it open. Ethan Hayes. Feels. Every sane part of her brain is screaming, this is a terrible idea. Feels. Ethan was ancient history. He bounced without a goodbye, making it crystal clear he was done. And even if he somehow had the same number and answered, what could he even do? What could some construction worker who fell off the planet do for her now? Feels. What chance did he have against a monster like Nathan Calloway? But sanity had left the chat. All that was left was a desperate, terrified woman, so pissed off she couldn't see straight. And way down deep, Feels. Buried under 7 years of hurt and pretending not to care, a memory flickered on. A promise. Chicago rooftop, fake city stars. One of those perfect summer nights when you're young enough to think promises actually mean something. Ethan, holding her hand, Feels, told her, if you ever need me, I don't care where I am or what I'm doing. You call me, I will laugh. Kissed him and said it back. So stupid, so young. But that memory was the only thing she had left. She typed a message, deleted it, Feels. Typed it again, her hands shaking so bad she could barely hit the keys. In the end, it was 2 sentences. If you still want me, come get me. I'm getting married in 3 weeks and I need help. She hit send before she could chicken out. Feels. Then she just sat there, surrounded by the flaming wreckage of her life, and waited for the ghosting she totally expected. Because ghosts don't text back. Her phone buzzed 30 seconds later. The reply was short, brutal. Address, date, time. The air just got stuck in Charlotte's throat. She sent the info, the venue, the date, the ceremony time. She didn't bother explaining Nathan's psycho threats, didn't mention her friends or family or any of it. Feels. She just sent the details and waited. The response came back instantly. I'll be there. Don't marry him, Charlotte. And then another one. I never stopped wanting you. Charlotte just stared at the words until they got blurry. She put her phone down, Feels, curled into a ball, and finally let herself lose it. It was the first time she'd cried since Nathan walked out. Crying for the girl who believed in rooftop promises, and for the woman who thought a controlling psycho was actually in love with her, Feels. For every single choice that led her to this moment, stuck between a guy who owned her and a ghost who ripped her heart out 7 years ago. She had no clue which one would wreck her more. But hey, at least now she had 3 weeks to find out, Feels. Those next 3 weeks were an absolute nightmare. Charlotte played the part. She was the perfect little bride-to-be. She smiled at the caterer, approved the flower arrangements, and stood like a mannequin for her final dress fitting, Feels. And Nathan, he was the perfect fiancé at every meeting, hand in hers whenever anyone was looking, acting like he hadn't just threatened to nuke her entire family. In private, it was a whole other story. He was cold, always watching. One night, Feels. He straight up stole her phone while she was sleeping. She woke up to him standing over her, the screen lighting up his face while he scrolled her messages. Who's Ethan Hayes? He asked, his voice way too calm. Charlotte's heart stopped, Feels. But she'd learned a thing or two from this guy, Feels. She learned how to lie with a straight face. College ex. Why? You texted him 3 weeks ago. Wrong number, she said without blinking. I was trying to text my friend Evelyn. Their names are right next to each other, Feels. Nathan just stared at her for a long, heavy second. Then he tossed the phone back on the bed and left without another word. Charlotte waited until his car was gone before she ran to the bathroom and threw up. She heard nothing from Ethan. Not a single call, Feels. Not one text. Part of her thought she'd hallucinated the whole thing. Another part was terrified he'd bailed, deciding she was way too much drama, and the little part she hated admitted she was scared he never meant any of it to begin with, Feels. Her parents knew something was off. Her mom was always watching, asking if she was sleeping, if she was eating, if she was really truly happy. Charlotte just lied, blaming it all on wedding stress, Feels. Her dad was quieter, but she'd catch him glaring at Nathan, with this look she'd never seen before. A sheer distrust, maybe even hate. She couldn't risk what Nathan would do. So she smiled, and she lied, and felt another piece of her soul just chip off and die every single day. The morning of the wedding, Charlotte woke up at 5 a.m. in the bridal suite, heart trying to punch its way out of her chest. Her bridesmaids were asleep next door. She had never felt so alone, Feels. She peered out the window, staring down at the garden where, in just 8 hours, she was slated to become Mrs. Nathan Calloway. The chairs were already lined up, perfect rows of empty white soldiers, Feels. The wedding arch was dripping in flowers that cost more than a used car. It all looked way too perfect. Charlotte had the sudden violent urge to literally crawl out of her own skin. Her phone buzzed. For half a second, heels. She let herself hope it was Ethan. Nope, just her mom, texting that she was en route with breakfast and mimosas. Charlotte dropped the phone. She had to force herself to breathe in, out, in, out. Just 8 more hours. She could survive 8 more hours, heels. And then this nightmare would be over, one way or another. Charlotte's mom showed up at 7, hauling a basket of pastries. Charlotte had zero intention of eating in champagne. She desperately wanted to chug straight from the bottle. Heels. Rebecca Bennett was a tiny woman, but her eyes missed nothing, and she had this insane ability for reading her daughter like an open book. "You look like hell, honey," she said, setting the basket down and immediately grabbing Charlotte's face. Heels. Angling it into the morning sun. "When's the last time you got any real sleep? Not just staring at the ceiling all night." "I'm fine, Mom." "You're a trash liar. Always have been." Rebecca shoved Charlotte into a chair and started unpacking the food. "Sit, heels. Eat. You've got 2 hours before the glam squad gets here, and they are not touching you until you've got some food in you." Charlotte just tore at a croissant, pulling off little flakes she'd never actually put in her mouth. Heels. Her mom just watched her, the silence getting super awkward. "Charlotte," she finally said, "you don't have to." Charlotte's hand froze mid-croissant destruction. "What?" "The wedding. If marrying Nathan isn't what you want, heels, we can pull the plug, right now. I'll handle everything. The guests, this place, the gifts. Your father and I will eat the cost. You do not have to walk down that aisle if something is wrong." For one insane split second, Charlotte almost spilled it all. Heels. Everything. About Jennifer and Michael, about Nathan's blackmail, about the desperate text she shot off to a ghost 3 weeks ago, and the soul-crushing silence that came after. But then she pictured her dad's business going up in flames. Heels. The permits Nathan could kill with a single phone call. She saw her mom's community center losing all its funding, and the truth just died right there on her tongue. "Nothing's wrong," Charlotte said, forcing a smile that felt like chewing on glass. Heels. "Just jitters. That's normal, right? For a bride to be nervous." Rebecca looked skeptical. "Charlotte, I love him, Mom. I want to marry him." The lie was pure acid in her throat, but Charlotte locked eyes with her mother and didn't flinch. After a beat, Rebecca heaved a long sigh and squeezed her hand. "All right," she said, her voice soft. "But if you change your mind even 5 minutes before you walk, you tell me." Heels. "Promise me," she said. Charlotte promised. Just one more lie to add to the pile that was about to bury her alive. Her bridesmaids blew in an hour later, filling the room with loud fake laughter and a forced party vibe that made Charlotte's head pound. Heels. They popped champagne, took a million selfies, and kept talking about how perfect everything was going to be. Charlotte just smiled and nodded, feeling like she was floating near the ceiling, watching some other girl live out this horror show. Heels. The hair and makeup artist showed up at 9. For 2 solid hours, they sprayed and painted her, turning her into the perfect picture of a bride, glowing, happy, totally in love. Every time Charlotte saw her reflection, heels, it was a complete stranger staring back. "You look absolutely stunning," one of the bridesmaids chirped, snapping another photo. "Nathan is going to have a heart attack when he sees you." Heels. Charlotte found herself wondering if Nathan started his morning with Jennifer. Heels. If he'd kissed his son goodbye before coming here to play the part of the faithful groom. The thought made her want to puke. Her phone, sitting on the vanity between all the makeup brushes, stayed dark and silent. By 11:30, Charlotte was zipped into the dress. It was a masterpiece of ivory silk and fancy lace, a gown she'd spent months agonizing over, and that cost a small fortune. It fit her like a glove. She looked exactly like the perfect bride she was supposed to be. Heels. The air in the room was so thick she could barely breathe. "I need a minute," she said, her voice cracking through the noise of her bridesmaids' chatter. "Alone. Just get out for a minute." They all swapped confused looks before shuffling out. Heels. Leaving Charlotte standing alone in the middle of the suite, a prisoner in a dress that cost more than her first car. She drifted back to the window, looking down at the garden again where the guests were starting to show up. And there was Nathan, heels, schmoozing with his co-workers from Morrison and Hale, looking every bit the smug bastard in his expensive tux. He glanced up, his eyes locking onto her window, and even from that far away, she could feel the ice-cold threat in his stare. Heels. "Don't you dare ruin this for me," Her phone vibrated. Charlotte almost ripped her dress trying to get to it, her heart slamming against her ribs. But it wasn't him. It was her father. Almost ready, sweetheart. I'm right outside whenever you are. Heels. Charlotte just stared at the text. In 30 minutes, her own father was going to walk her down that aisle and hand her over to a monster who was using her family's destruction as a leash. And he had no clue. Nobody knew anything. She typed back a lie. Heels. Almost ready. Love you, Dad. Then she found Ethan's name in her contacts. The last thing she saw was the message she'd sent 3 weeks ago, the one he answered with a promise before he completely ghosted her. Her hands were shaking as she typed. Heels. Are you coming? She sent it and waited. 30 seconds, a minute, 2, crickets. Heels. Charlotte felt something crack deep in her chest. Of course he wasn't coming. He probably deleted her number 5 seconds after sending that bogus promise. Heels. Laughing at her for being stupid enough to think he'd just drop his entire life to save her from her own mess. He walked away once without a single word. Why the hell did she think he'd ever come back? Heels. She was about to let the phone slip from her hand when it buzzed. I'm already here, her breath hitched. She had to read it 3 times to make sure her brain wasn't just making it up. Another message popped up. Don't marry him. I meant what I said. Heels. Charlotte. Her mom's voice bled through the door. Honey, it's time. Charlotte's eyes darted from the phone to the garden where Nathan was waiting, to her own reflection, the perfect bride, all dolled up and ready for slaughter. Heels. She thought about a promise Ethan had made on a rooftop 7 years ago. Heels. She thought about the kid who used to look at her like she was the only thing holding his world together. She thought about the man he must be now and the insane fact that he was somewhere close by, waiting for her. Charlotte. Her mother knocked again. Heels. Harder this time. We need to go. Charlotte took one last hard look at the woman in the mirror. Then she grabbed her bouquet, squared her shoulders, and yanked the door open. I'm ready, she said, not 100% sure if it was a lie or not. Heels. The walk from the suite to the garden felt like a fever dream. Everything was too loud, too bright, too damn real. Heels. So get this. Charlotte is on the death march down the aisle, literally clinging to her dad just to stay upright. The music starts playing, some fancy tune she barely remembers picking, and all these fake smiles are pointed right at her. Heels. Everyone's whispering about how beautiful she is, but up at the altar, that's where Nathan is waiting. Total psycho. He's got that perfect rich look down, but his eyes are screaming a threat clear as day. Marry me, or your family gets at her dad. Heels. Sensing something is majorly wrong, leans in. You sure about this, kiddo? He whispers, totally ready to bolt. We can walk out right now. Screw the money. Screw all these people. It's you I care about. Charlotte's fighting back tears. Heels. Because Nathan is watching her like a hawk. I'm sure, Dad, she lies. He doesn't buy it for a second, but keeps going. They're about halfway there when she sees him. A ghost. Heels. Standing near the back, half hidden by some decorative tree, a shadow nobody else would ever notice. Heels. The dude's dressed in all black, basically melting into the scenery, not making a single move. But Charlotte? She spent 2 years memorizing that face, the way he stands, every last detail that makes him Ethan Hayes. She'd recognize him anywhere. Heels. He looks different. Older, yeah, 7 years will do that. But it's more. The kid she knew was this wiry, tired-looking guy who tried to be invisible. This man? He's solid, built, heels, and carries this insane stillness that's way scarier than any roided-out tough guy pose. He's staring right at her, and his gaze just sucks all the air from her lungs. Charlotte stumbles, and her dad has to catch her. You good? Fine, she chokes out. Heels, which is the biggest lie of the century. Her heart's going a mile a minute. Hands are shaking, and her whole body is screaming run. But to who? They finally make it. Dad kisses her, puts her hand in Nathan's, and backs off. Nathan's grip is like a vice. Heels. He's smiling like a saint. Heels. You look beautiful, he whispers, then drops his voice to ice. Don't pull any crap. Heels. The officiant is some woman Nathan handpicked, of course. She's got this kind, gentle vibe that feels totally wrong for this hostage situation. She starts with the whole dearly beloved shtick, but Charlotte's brain has checked out. Heels. Her eyes are locked on Ethan. He still hasn't moved, but his gaze is a laser beam aimed right at her. She can't read his expression from here, but she feels it. The officiant is rambling on about love and forever, Heels, and Nathan saying all the right things in his confident voice. Charlotte forces herself to mimic him, the vows tasting like poison. Then comes the classic line. If anyone has a reason why these two shouldn't be married, the officiant chirps, Heels. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Dead silence. Total movie moment, except this is real. You can hear birds, feel the sun, smell the disgustingly sweet flowers. Nathan squeezes her hand, a clear warning. Feels. The efficient is about to close the deal when a new sound cuts in. Helicopter blades. Feels. Faint at first, then getting loud real fast. The guests start freaking out, looking at the sky. Nathan's grip turns bone-crushing. The efficient just freezes. Feels. And then bam, a black helicopter tears over the trees, flying way, way too low over this bougie mansion. It does whump around the garden, and the rotor wash just annihilates everything. Flowers everywhere, tablecloths flying off. It's pure chaos. Feels. Nathan's face is just pure shock. What the hell? The chopper starts to land, right on the perfectly manicured lawn, about 30 feet from the altar. The noise is insane. The wind from the blades is destroying what's left of the decor. Feels. Half the guests are running for cover. Someone's screaming. The helicopter door slides open, and Ethan Hayes steps out. He looks like he's just showing up for brunch, not crashing a wedding in the most epic way possible. He's in all black, no tie, feels, looking completely unbothered, like landing a private helicopter in the middle of a ceremony is just a normal Thursday for him. And he looks dangerous, not like before. The quiet kid trying to avoid trouble is long gone, feels. This man moves with the confidence of someone who stopped caring about consequences ages ago. Two more guys get out behind him, feels. These guys are huge, suited up, and move like they're Secret Service. They're not here to make Finally Loses It. What the hell are you doing? This is a private party. I'll have you arrested for. Ethan doesn't even look at him. Nope, feels. He walks straight down the wrecked aisle, eyes locked on Charlotte, and stops right in front of her. Up close, you can see how 7 years changed him. New scars. A hardened look around his eyes. But the eyes themselves, that intense, feels. Almost black-brown are the same. And the way he's looking at her, like she's the only person on the planet, that hasn't changed either. Charlotte, he says, his voice deeper now, rougher. You called, I'm here. And boom. Charlotte is frozen solid, feels. Can't speak, can't move. In the background, Nathan is still sputtering. The guests are just a blur of shocked faces, and her mom is probably having a heart attack. But none of that matters. Feels. The only real thing is Ethan, standing in the middle of her ruined wedding, holding out his hand. Who the hell are you? Nathan finally roars, trying to get between them. But one of Ethan's guys moves like lightning. Instantly, there's a wall of muscle blocking Nathan's path. The other bodyguard takes a spot next to her, forming a perfect, silent perimeter. Feels. Ethan still doesn't give Nathan the time of day. His eyes are glued to Charlotte. Charlotte, he says again, his voice cutting through all the chaos. Do you want to marry this man? Of course she does. Nathan snaps, his face getting all red and splotchy. Feels. We're in the middle of our vows. This is insane. Someone call security, Ethan says, his voice completely deadpan. And that flat, empty tone makes Nathan actually take a step back. Charlotte, it's a simple question. Feels. Do you want to marry Nathan Calloway? The whole world is just watching her. Her family, friends, Nathan's powerful buddies, every single guest she invited to witness this perfect lie. She can feel them all judging her, feels, their thoughts practically screaming at her. This is nuts. You only see stuff like this in movies. People don't just crash weddings with choppers. They don't just pop up after 7 years of nothing to ask you to burn your entire life to the ground, feels. But Ethan did, feels. And he's standing there, waiting for her answer like the entire universe is hanging on it. Her mind is racing, remembering Nathan's threats against her friends, the gilded cage he'd built for her. 6 months of playing the perfect wife, then a quiet divorce and a fat check to shut her up. She remembers his cold eyes promising to destroy everyone she loves if she crossed him. And then she remembers a promise Ethan made on a rooftop back when they were just kids who didn't know any better. Feels. And she thought about how, against all odds, he had kept his promise anyway. No, Charlotte whispered, the sound so faint the wind almost snatched it. Then louder, shattering the silence. No, I don't want to marry him, feels. Nathan's face went from pale to rage red in seconds. Charlotte, you need to seriously think about what you're doing. Think about your family. Think about everyone who. Let's go, Ethan said, his voice cutting through the drama, simple and final. Feels. He held out his hand. She looked at his hand, then at Nathan, whose face was a twisted mask of fury and shock. She saw her parents, her dad now standing up, his eyes jumping between her and Ethan with a look she couldn't read. Her mother, feels, with a hand slapped over her mouth. Charlotte, don't you dare be an idiot, Nathan hissed. You have no idea what I'm capable of. What I will do to you, I will end you. You won't do a damn thing, Ethan said. And finally, he turned and looked right at Nathan. Heels. Whatever Nathan saw in Ethan's eyes choked the words right in his throat. You will not threaten her again. You will not contact her again. You won't even say her name. Because if you do, what I'm capable of will make your worst threats feel like a pillow fight. Are we clear? Nathan's mouth flapped open, then snapped shut. For the first time since she met him, Nathan Calloway looked completely, utterly broken. Charlotte let her bouquet drop. It hit the grass with a soft thud, scattering perfect white roses everywhere. She reached out and took Ethan's hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid, so unbelievably real. He squeezed her hand just once, a firm, gentle pressure, and this huge knot of terror she'd been carrying finally started to loosen. Okay, she whispered. Let's go. He led her right back down the aisle, away from the psycho at the altar. Away from the life she was seconds from being chained to forever. The wedding dress was a trap, way too long for a fast getaway. So she grabbed handfuls of silk, holding the train off the floor. Behind them, the gorgeous garden exploded into total chaos. Guests were yelling, just a wall of noise and confusion. Charlotte could hear her mom screaming her name, heard Nathan yell something that got cut off with a grunt. She never once looked back. They reached the helicopter. Ethan boosted her in, then jumped in right after. His crew was already strapped in and ready to go. The pilot didn't need to be told twice. The rotors screamed, and the whole thing lifted off the ground like it was nothing. Charlotte got one last look at the disaster zone below before they were too high. Nathan was still at the altar, just a furious little doll surrounded by confused guests, his face twisted in pure rage as he stared up at them. Her parents stood near the front. Her mom looked absolutely broken. Her dad just looked floored. The whole perfect scene she'd obsessed over for months was now completely trashed. Flowers were stomped, chairs were knocked over, the perfect expensive order just completely obliterated, and then they cleared the trees and the garden was gone. Charlotte finally turned to look at Ethan. He was already staring at her, his face a total blank. Not happy, not even relieved. It was something else, something that looked a hell of a lot like fear. Are you okay? He asks. And that's when Charlotte just starts laughing. She can't help it. The question was so damn ridiculous, so tiny next to the absolute train wreck her life just became. That laughing was the only option left. It just poured out of her, shaky and on the edge of a full-blown meltdown. Ethan just stood there, letting her get it all out. That's not exactly an answer, he says, all gentle when she's finally done. I just bailed on my own wedding in a freaking helicopter. Charlotte shoots back, her voice shaking. I have no idea if I'm okay. I don't even know what I am. Fair point. Just sits just a beat in the roaring cabin where you had to yell to be heard. Charlotte looks at her hands. Trembling. The truth was, her whole body was trembling. Where are we going? She finally gets out. Somewhere safe. Somewhere Nathan Calloway can't ever get to you. Ethan pauses. I have a place, way out of the city. It's private. You can stay as long as you want. Charlotte just nods slowly. Then a question slices through the chaos in her head. How do you know? About Nathan. About what he was doing to me. Ethan's face turns into a stone wall. Maybe we should talk about that later. Ethan, she pushes. How did you know? He's dead silent for a long, heavy second. Then he finally drops the bomb. I've been keeping an eye on you for a while now. Charlotte just stares. What the hell does that mean, keeping an eye? It means I was making sure you were safe, that nothing bad happened, that no one, he fumbles for the words, that no one could hurt you. Ethan turns away, looking down at the city lights, refusing to meet her eyes. Since I left, that one hit like a sucker punch. Since you, Ethan, that was 7 years ago. I know, You've been watching me for 7 years? Not watching, checking in. That is watching. Charlotte's voice is climbing, a crazy mix of rage and panic. That is the literal definition of watching someone. You ghosted me. No call, no text. Nothing to let me know you weren't dead in a ditch somewhere, and you've been secretly watching me this whole damn time? I couldn't contact you, Ethan says, and the raw pain in his voice is unmistakable. I wanted to. Every single day I wanted to call, but I couldn't. Why not? Because. He stops, running a hand through his hair, and the old gesture hits her like a lightning bolt from the past. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Charlotte is full-on screaming now, not giving a damn about his crew trying to become invisible in their seats. You crash my wedding like some action movie reject. Then tell me you've been stalking me for 7 years. I was not stalking you. Yields. So you hit me with it's complicated? I torched my entire life back there, Ethan. My family, my home, everything. The bare minimum you owe me is why you ghosted me. The chopper tilted hard, swinging east. Ethan just stared. Yields. A storm of emotions crossing his face before he finally caved with a long sigh. When I disappeared, he started, his voice all low and gravelly. It wasn't my choice. Staying would have put a bullet in you. Charlotte froze solid. What? Yields. After your dad took me in, I thought I was out. Free from my mother's world. I figured all her contacts, her debts, all that chaos. I thought it died with her. I was wrong. 6 months after I moved in with you guys, they tracked me down. Yields. Who tracked you down? The people my mom owed money to. The worst kind, Charlotte. The type that doesn't just forget a debt. And they don't care who they have to snap in half to get paid. Ethan's jaw was clenched so hard you could hear it. Yields. They laid out 2 options for me. Yields. I could become their new errand boy, or they could start taking pieces out of the people I cared about to get my attention. They had photos, Charlotte, of you, your folks. They knew your class schedule, where your dad worked. They had everything. A deep, Yields, unnatural cold shot through Charlotte's system. So you ran, he confirmed. I thought if I was just gone, erased from off, they couldn't use you against me anymore. You'd finally be safe. He paused, his eyes filled with a galaxy of regret. Yields. I got a lot of things wrong back then, but I was right about that one. Yields. They left you alone the moment I was out of the picture. And you've just been, what? Working for them for the last 7 years? Only for about 6 months, he shot back. Then I found an exit. Yields. But getting out clean meant making damn sure I could never be put in that position again. It meant making sure no one could ever use the people I love as a weapon against me. He finally met her eyes dead on. I built an empire, Charlotte. Yields. Something so powerful that nobody can touch me or my people ever again. And the second it was built, I put you under its protection too, whether you knew it or not. Charlotte's head was spinning. Way too much information, Yields. Too many secrets hitting her all at once. Protected how? Any way you needed. A cash injection here and there when things got lean. I never took a dime from you. Yields. That scholarship your senior year. The one that appeared out of thin air and then poof, gone after you graduated. Or that gallery job that suddenly had the perfect opening because I paid them to create it. And the apartment, Yields. In a secure building I handpicked myself. Ethan's voice was a low, steady rumble. So when Nathan Calloway slithered into your life, I started digging. And when I found out who he really was, I tried to get you the proof without you knowing it was me. Yields. Charlotte's entire world just flipped upside down. The pictures.
Which pictures?
3 weeks ago, someone sent me photos of Nathan with another woman. His kid, hard evidence that he was living a double life. Yields. That's when I called him on it. And her voice died, remembering the poison in Nathan's threats. He promised he'd destroy my family if I dared call off the wedding. A storm cloud passed over Ethan's face. The threats? I didn't know about those. Yields. If I'd known you were the one who, you've been playing puppet master with my life for 7 years. I've been keeping you alive for 7 years. Huge difference. Charlotte was yelling now, her voice raw in the tight space of the helicopter. Yields. But she couldn't care less. You don't get to decide what happens to me, Ethan. You don't get to be the gatekeeper of my reality, or who I'm with, or my job, or where I live. That's not being protected. It's being controlled. I know. Yields. The words were barely a breath from him. You're right. I know you're right. But I couldn't do it, Charlotte. I couldn't just sit back and watch you march straight into that disaster. Not when I had the power to stop it, even if it meant you'd hate my guts. Yields. I never lied to you. You vanished. You let me think you were dead, or that you just didn't give a damn, or I don't even know what the hell I was supposed to believe. All that time, you were out there somewhere, watching me. Yields. Pulling my strings like I was some kind of doll. Tears, hot and full of rage, started to well up. I mourned you, Ethan. For months I was sick over it, thinking the worst had happened to you. And you were fine. You were perfectly fine, Yields. And you couldn't send one single text to let me know. I'm sorry. The words were pathetic, stripped of everything. I am so sorry, Charlotte, for every last bit of it. For leaving, for the silence, for screwing this up so badly. Yields. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing. I convinced myself that your safety was more important than the truth. But I was wrong. The chopper was landing, heading for a private helipad on a skyscraper Charlotte had never seen. Down below, Yields, The city was just an uncaring ocean of lights, totally clueless that her whole world had just been blown to pieces and put back together wrong. Feels. She looked at Ethan, this guy who broke her heart and saved her life in one catastrophic move, and tried to figure out the hurricane inside her. Rage? Yep. Betrayal, confusion, a whole lot of fear. But under it all, buried by years of hurt but still there, feels, was the same exact feeling from 7 years ago, from that first kiss in her parents' kitchen. Love. A dumb, stubborn, ridiculous love that just wouldn't quit. I can't deal with this right now, Charlotte said, her voice totally empty. Feels. I can't even start to unpack this. I need space. I need to think. Feels. Take all you need, Ethan answered, his voice soft. I'm not going anywhere. Never again. The helicopter touched down with a gentleness that didn't match its size. One of Ethan's guys slid the door open, helping Charlotte out onto the roof. Feels. The wind from the blades whipped her wedding dress around her legs. A sick joke. An hour ago, she was at the altar, about to chain her life to a total fraud. Ethan led her to a door that slid open into a penthouse. Super sleek, modern, feels, and worth more than she'd make in a decade. She walked in, a ghost in a white dress, her brain still short-circuiting from the last hour. Feels. Bedroom's right through there, Ethan said, pointing. It's got its own bathroom. There should be some clothes in there that'll fit. I had someone drop stuff off. If you need anything else, just say the word. All Charlotte could do was nod like a zombie. Feels. Then, one thought cut through the static. My parents. They're going to be freaking out. I need to call them. I have to. Already done. My team made contact 10 minutes ago. They know you're safe. They're on their way over here now if you want to see them. Feels. Of course they were. Of course it was handled. Because Ethan is always 10 steps ahead. Charlotte felt that familiar sting of tears but was too drained to even cry. Okay. She got out. I'm gonna go change. Get out of this stupid dress. Feels. She headed for the bedroom, then stopped and looked back. Ethan was just standing there alone in the middle of his massive, empty apartment, and he had a look on his face she'd never seen before. Feels. He looked completely lost, uncertain, nothing like the dangerous, uncontrolled man who had literally sky. Ethan, she said, her voice low, that promise you made back on the roof that if I ever needed you, you'd come. I remember it. But was it real? Did you actually mean it? Or was that just something dumb kids say when they think they're in love? Ethan met her gaze and held it for a long, quiet beat. I meant it, he said, his voice deep and solid. Feels. And he meant it. Every single day for 7 straight years. It was the only promise he ever kept that actually mattered. Charlotte just gives this slow, searching nod. Then she dips into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Feels. She gets maybe 3 steps in before her legs just peace out. Total collapse. She hits the floor, and this ridiculously expensive wedding dress just pools around her like melted ice cream. She yanks her knees to her chest, buries her face, feels. And finally she lets herself completely fall apart. She could have been on that floor for 5 minutes or an hour. Who knows? Time was irrelevant. The dress felt like a trap, all that silk and lace, suddenly weighing 1,000 pounds, choking her, feels. Her fingers fumble with the stupid little buttons on the back. She gets like 3 of them undone and then just says screw it, ripping the whole thing over her head. You can hear the fabric tear. She does not care. The dress lands in a heap. Feels. She leaves it there to die. Feels. It's meaningless now. In the closet, she finds the clothes he mentioned. Jeans, some t-shirts, a sweatshirt. All in her size, of course. After 7 years of playing shadow ops on her life, Ethan probably knew her measurements better than she did. Feels. That thought should have been way creepier than it was. But Charlotte was just too fried to feel anything but tired down to her bones. She pulls on the jeans and a tee, splashes water on her face, feels, and watches $700 of professional makeup go right down the drain. Feels. The face staring back at her was a total wreck, pale, raw. Her eyes were puffy and red. Her fancy hairdo was already falling apart. She looked nothing like the bride from an hour ago. Nope, she just looked like herself. Smaller, maybe a little more fragile, feels. But it was her. A soft knock on the bedroom door. Charlotte, Ethan's voice. It's quiet, hesitant. Your parents are here. Her stomach drops into her shoes. In the middle of her own personal hurricane, she'd totally forgotten they were coming. Feels. What was she supposed to say? How do you even begin to explain this mess? Just a minute. She takes 3 shaky breaths, throws her hair into a messy ponytail, and opens the door. And there they are. Her parents, feels, standing in Ethan's living room, looking like 2 penguins at a rave. They are so out of place with all the slick modern furniture and the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. Mom's still in her gown, Dad's in his suit. Heels. They both look like they just survived a car crash. The second her mom sees her, she lunges forward, pulling Charlotte into a hug so tight it nearly cracks a rib. Are you okay? Are you hurt? What happened? Charlotte, tell me what. I'm fine, Mom. I'm okay. Charlotte hugs her back, feeling her mom tremble. I'm so sorry. Then her dad is there, wrapping his arms around both of them, just like he did when she was a kid, scared of monsters under the bed. For one perfect, stupid second, Charlotte lets herself feel safe. Feels. She lets herself be a kid again, protected by the only two people who could fix anything. But that's not how life works anymore. She's not a kid. And this was a whole new level of broken they couldn't glue back together. When they finally break apart, heels. Charlotte sees Ethan standing across the room, giving them space. He's got this uncertain look that's so weird on him, like he's not sure he's even allowed to be watching. Then her dad sees him. He freezes, and his face just hardens with recognition. Heels. Ethan Hayes, he says, and the words are quiet but heavy as lead. It wasn't a question, Mr. Bennett. Ethan's tone is respectful, but there's zero apology in it. It's been a long time, 7 years. Her dad doesn't move an inch, doesn't offer a handshake. Heels. You walked away without a word. Didn't tell a single person where you were going. We thought. He stops, his jaw clenched tight. We thought something terrible happened to you. I know. I'm sorry for that. Sorry. Heels. Her dad says the word like it's poison. You disappear from my daughter's life. You shatter her heart. Then you show up by crashing her wedding in a freaking helicopter. And all you can say is that you're sorry? Dad, don't. Charlotte starts. Heels. But her mom puts a hand on her arm. Let him talk, Rebecca says, her voice surprisingly soft. She's looking at Ethan with an expression Charlotte can't read. It's not anger. It's something way more complicated. Let him explain himself. And so, heels. Ethan starts talking. He tells them about his mom's debt, about the kind of scum that came looking for him. He tells them about the threats they made against Charlotte, against her entire family. Heels. He lays it all out. The choice to vanish to keep them safe. The long years spent building a fortress around himself so high that nobody could ever use them against him again. He skips over the darker details. Charlotte could feel the holes in the story. Heels. The nasty bits about what he'd really built and how, but he gives them the general picture. Her parents just listen, their silence filling the room like a thick fog. When Ethan finally stops talking, her father lets the quiet hang there for a beat too long. Heels. You could have told me, he says, his voice rough. When they threatened you, those pictures, you could have come to me. The police, with all due respect, Mr. Bennett. Ethan's voice is low but sharp. The police were a joke. Heels. These people didn't fear cops. They had half the department on their payroll. His tone was soft, but it had a core of pure steel. Telling you would have just painted a target on your backs, too. Heels. Leaving was the only move that kept Charlotte out of the crossfire. And the 7 years of watching her from a distance, Charlotte's mother finally spikes up. Making decisions for her about her life without her even knowing you were there. Heels. How is that supposed to be safety? It wasn't just about safety anymore, Ethan admits, and you could tell it cost him to say it. After a while, it became about me. I had to know she was okay. I had to see her happy. Heels. Building a life, even if I was just a ghost on the outside looking in. But she wasn't happy, Rebecca shoots back, her words like daggers. She was about to marry a man who was trapping her, a man who'd built a kingdom of lies. A man you knew was a threat. Heels. So what, exactly, did all your so-called protection accomplish, Ethan? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like it did jack squat. Ethan flinches. For just a split second, Charlotte sees pure agony on his face. You're right, I should done more. Heels. When I found out about Nathan, I should have gone to her. I screwed up. In a lot of ways. But I couldn't let that wedding happen. I just couldn't stand there and watch her walk into that fire. Heels. Charlotte's dad is studying Ethan with this unnerving intensity, a look she knew all too well. It was his deal-closing look, the one he used right before he cut a man loose. What is it you've built, Ethan, he asks. Heels. In these 7 years, what have you become? Dad, I don't think. Charlotte tries to intervene, but Ethan holds up a hand, stopping her. It's a fair question. He meets her father's stare head-on. I built a security firm. Started small, Heels, just private protection for people with no one else to call. Heels. It grew from there. Now we do corporate security, protect high-value targets, even take on some government contracts. He pauses, trying to find the right words. I'm not involved in anything criminal. It's all legit, board-approved, licensed deals. But the job means I deal with dangerous people all the time. That's just what it is. And you're good at it. That wasn't a question from her father. It was a cold, hard assessment, one he probably made the instant he saw the helicopter, the armed guards, deals, and this penthouse that screamed power. Deals. Yes, Ethan says. Good enough to afford helicopters to blow up a wedding. The helicopter is mine, and yes, I would have torched every last cent I have to get to Charlotte if she was in danger. Deals. A weird noise comes out of Charlotte's mother. It was kind of a sigh, kind of a laugh. You actually meant it, she whispers. That promise you made her, up on the roof. A flash of surprise hits Ethan's face. She told you about that. Deals. She told me everything about you, Ethan. For months after you disappeared, that's all she ever talked about. The promises you made, the future you two planned. She talked about how much it destroyed her when you just evaporated. Rebecca's voice gets softer. Deals. She loved you. She was absolutely 100% in love with you. Do you have any idea what you did to her when you left? I know. Ethan's voice is barely a whisper. I know. I'm so sorry. If I could go back. But you can't. Deals. Her father cuts him off, his tone final. There's no going back. Deals. There's only what's next. So that brings us to right now. What happens now? You've crashed the wedding. You've stopped everything. You've brought her here. What's the damn plan? Charlotte finally finds her voice. I can make my own plans, Dad. Deals. I don't need Ethan to have one for me. I know that, sweetie, but this isn't for you, it's for me. Her father turns to her, dead serious. Because I need to know if I have to worry. I need to know if this man, he points at Ethan, Deals, is going to treat you like treasure, or if he's going to pull another vanishing act the second things get hard. Deals. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan declared, his voice absolutely solid. Not unless Charlotte tells me to leave. And Nathan, Rebecca shot back, her voice tight with worry. He's not just going to let this slide. He threatened all of us. Deals. What's stopping him from doing it now? The question made Charlotte's stomach twist into knots. In all the chaos, she'd almost forgotten Nathan's poisonous promises to bankrupt her father's company, wreck her mother's charity, and ruin everyone she loved. Deals. Nathan Calloway is officially a non-issue, Ethan said, his voice taking on a new, harder edge. Not for Charlotte. Not for any of you. How could you possibly be sure of that? Charlotte demanded. Ethan locked eyes with her for a heavy moment. Deals. Because for the last 3 weeks, I've been putting together a little file on him. Every crooked deal, every bought and paid for politician, every single law he's bent or broken to get to the top. Deals. I have proof of his affair with Jennifer, evidence he's been juggling 2 different lives, and financial records that trace a massive money laundering scheme right through his company. Deals. I have more than enough to obliterate his career and throw him in a cage. Total silence slammed into the room. You've had this for 3 weeks, Charlotte said, the words feeling like lead. The text I sent you, you had all this before that? Deals. I started digging into him months ago as soon as I saw the kind of snake he was. I started building the case right then. Ethan paused. The plan was to send it all to you, anonymously. Give you the ammo to walk away clean. But then I got your text. Deals. And I knew you needed more than just a file. You needed a get-out-of-jail-free card he couldn't touch. So you crashed my wedding. So I crashed your wedding. Charlotte couldn't tell if she wanted to laugh or just start screaming. Deals, you are completely insane. Deals. You know you're insane, right? Like, certifiably 100% nuts. Probably, Ethan admits, but you're safe. That's all that matters. Charlotte's dad had been watching them this whole time, his face a complete mystery. Finally, Deals. He lets out a huge sigh and rubs his face. I need a drink, he declares. Ethan, you got anything in this fortress stronger than water? Whiskey. Perfect. Ethan hits up a slick cabinet, pulling out a bottle of clearly expensive whiskey and 3 glasses. Deals. Her mom just waves it off, but Charlotte grabs one, downing half of it in one go. The burn was intense, but the warmth that came after started to calm the shaking inside her. Her father takes a slower sip, his eyes locked on Ethan over the glass. Deals. You love my daughter. It was a fact, not a question, but Ethan answered anyway. Yes, and you'll do anything to keep her safe, even if it means doing things she'll hate you for. Yes. That's what I figured. Her dad puts his glass down. Deals. Here's the problem, Ethan. Charlotte doesn't need a guardian angel in the Haddos. She doesn't need a guy pulling the strings for her. She needs a partner. Someone who will trust her with the truth, no matter how messed up it is. Can you be that man for her? Ethan's eyes find Charlotte's. Really find them, like he was actually seeing her for the first time in 7 long years. I can try. Heels. Trying isn't enough. Charlotte's voice comes out harder than she meant, but she doesn't walk it back. I can't do this, Ethan. I can't be with a guy who decides what's best for me. Heels. I can't be with someone who makes massive decisions about my life and just cuts me out. I did that once with Nathan. We all saw how that turned out. I'm not him. I know you're not. But you still hid things from me. You manipulated everything. Heels. You made choices that blew up my entire world without telling me a single thing. That's not protection, Ethan. It's control. And I am done with it. From you. From anyone. Ethan just stands there in the silence, then gives a slow, deliberate nod. You're right, Heels. And I am sorry. I don't know how to do this the right way, Charlotte. For so long, the only way I could keep you safe was to be a ghost, to handle it all from a distance by myself. I don't know how to let someone else in. Heels. I don't know how to share the burden instead of just carrying it all. Heels. Then learn, Charlotte says, her voice totally flat. Because if you want in my life, that's the ticket price. Absolute honesty. No more secrets. No more choices made for me. We make them with me. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. I'll take it, Ethan says back, not even hesitating. Anything you ask, whatever it takes. Charlotte wanted to believe him. A huge part of her did. But trust isn't a light switch you can just flip on. Heels. It had to be rebuilt, piece by agonizing piece, with proof and time and showing that promises weren't just a bunch of hot air. We'll see, she says, her voice barely a whisper. Her mother, who'd been watching them like a hawk, finally speaks up. Charlotte, Heels, I want you to come home with us tonight. You need to breathe. Time to figure out what you really want. To talk with people who are not, she motions to Ethan, so completely wrapped up in all this. Charlotte starts to nod, then she freezes. Heels. But Nathan, what if he tries to find you? Let him try, her father says, his voice a low rumble. My entire career has been putting guys like him in their place. I can handle Nathan Calloway. No, Ethan cuts in. You can't. That isn't his style, Heels. Not when he's cornered. Nathan is going to be a rabid dog after today, and desperate guys do stupid, dangerous things. He met her father's eyes. I wasn't kidding. The dirt I have is enough to destroy him, but it has to be done right. Heels. It takes time. Police filings, media leaks, legal moves. It could be days before everything is in motion. And until then, Nathan is a serious threat. So what's your plan? Rebecca asked. Stay here, all of you. This building is a fortress in ways Nathan can't even imagine. My team will lock this place down until he's not a problem anymore. Ethan lets the silence hang there for a second. There's plenty of room, separate suites, total privacy, whatever you need. Heels. You don't have to trust me, but you can trust my ability to keep you safe. My absolute will to keep you safe. Charlotte's parents trade a look, one of those silent conversations that takes years of marriage to perfect. Just for tonight, Heels. Her father finally says, we'll stay for the night, and we'll figure out tomorrow. Ethan just gives a small nod. Fair enough. He leads her mom and dad to guest suites on the other side of the penthouse. Heels. Charlotte could hear his deep voice showing them the ropes, explaining the security system, and promising them his guys were on watch downstairs. He sounded patient, respectful. Nothing like the predator who had backed Nathan into a corner in the garden. Heels. When he came back, she was at the windows, a shadow against the city lights. The sun was going down, splashing the sky with these insane shades of orange and pink that just felt like a slap in the face. Heels. Something so beautiful had no business showing up on a day this ugly. Heels. You all right? Ethan's voice was soft, right behind her. A sharp, broken laugh escapes her. Everyone keeps asking me that. I have no idea what to say. Am I all right? My wedding ended with me being airlifted out. The guy I was about to marry is a legit psycho. Heels. The guy I loved 7 years ago just reappeared, admitting he's been watching me the whole time. My parents are crashing in a stranger's apartment because their own house isn't safe. So no, Ethan, I'm not all right. Heels. I am so far from all right I couldn't find it with a map and a flashlight. He just said, fair enough. Heels. Ethan slides up next to her at the window but gives her space. He hits her with the real talk. For what it's worth, you handled today like an absolute boss. Better than anyone I've ever seen. Making a call like that in front of the whole world, Heels. That's either next-level strength or pure madness, maybe both. They just stand there, quiet, watching the city below flip-switching for the night. So, Charlotte finally breaks the silence. The dirt you have on Nathan, what's the play? Oh, that? Heels. It's already being gift-wrapped for the authorities. The feds, actually. Turns out Nathan's little schemes went interstate. which makes it their problem now. My guys are already chatting with the FBI. They're kicking in his door tomorrow morning. Feels. That fast, she says. Yep, that fast. By this time tomorrow, Nathan Calloway's entire world is going to be a smoking crater. His company, his reputation, his freedom, all of it. Just dust. You'd think Charlotte would be thrilled, vindicated, feels, triumphant even. But nah, all she feels is this heavy, bone-deep exhaustion. And Jennifer, his kid, Jennifer knew exactly what was up. She was in on the whole scam, helped him hide money, the whole 9 yards. She's going down too. Ethan's voice gets a little softer. But the kid is clean. I already made sure a trust fund is set up for him. School, expenses, therapy, whatever he needs. He's not going to pay for his parents' garbage. Feels. And of course he did. Of course Ethan already thought of it, already moved to shield a kid from the blast zone. You're a good man, Charlotte whispers, barely audible. You know that, right? Feels. For all the lies and the secrets and the iron-fisted control, deep down, you're a good man. A noise rumbles in Ethan's chest, kind of a laugh, but with zero humor. I'm really not, he says. I've done things, Charlotte, feels. Things that would make you look at me completely differently. Then tell me. Charlotte spins to face him, locking him in her sights. You said no more secrets. That means you tell me the stuff you're scared of, feels. The things you think will make me bolt for the door. You tell me, and I get to decide if I can handle it. Ethan just stares at her for a long, heavy second, and you can practically see the war going on behind his eyes, feels. The instinct to protect her from his own darkness, fighting the promise he just made. Finally he cracks, feels. When I left, when I went to work for the guys my mom owed money to, they didn't want me for construction work. They wanted me because I was smart, desperate, and a total ghost. No record, no paper trail, nothing for the cops to grab onto. What kind of work, she asks. Mostly a courier, moving packages, passing messages. But I wasn't an idiot. I knew what I was carrying. I knew those boxes were full of narcotics. Knew the messages were setting up deals that would wreck people's lives. Deals. I told myself I had no choice, that it was just about survival, but that was just a lie to help me sleep at night. There's always a choice, and I made mine. Charlotte feels her chest tighten, but she keeps her voice steady. Go on. After 6 months, feels. I had enough cash to disappear. I used some of it to clear my mom's debt, wipe the slate clean so they'd have no reason to come after me. Or you. I used the rest to start the security firm. But to launch a company like that, you need licenses, feels. Permits, background checks. I had made contacts by then, guys who owed me. Guys who could make paperwork vanish or appear, on demand. I called in those favors. I built my company on a foundation that wasn't exactly legit. Is it legit now? Yes, feels. Everything I do today is 100% by the book, but it took 2 years of dirty work to launder it all. And those 2 years meant paying off officials, forging documents, and working with dudes I knew were criminals. Feels. Ethan's voice is flat, like he's reading a grocery list. I'm not proud of it, but I'd do it all again if it gave me the power to actually keep you safe. Charlotte just takes it all in, letting the confession land. Part of her wants to scream that he's wrong, that he tainted himself for nothing. But another part, the part that just spent 3 weeks trapped by Nathan Calloway, gets it on a terrifying level. How someone could be pushed into making those kinds of calls. Feels. You could have just told me, she said, her voice barely a whisper. 7 years ago, we could have figured something else out together. Ethan's reply was just as quiet. I was 23 and totally terrified. I had no idea how to ask for help, feels, let alone let somebody love me. All I knew was that my life got people hurt and I had to stop it. So you bounced, so I bounced. Charlotte looked back out the window. The city looked peaceful from up here, all its chaos and grime hidden by the dark. Feels. I really want to hate you, and trust me, a big part of me does. I know, but some other part of me gets it, and I have no idea what to do with that feeling. Ethan just stood there, quiet, waiting. She was glad for it. Feels. He never tried to fill a silence with cheap words or easy answers. He just let it be. I need time, Charlotte finally managed, to deal with this, to figure out my own head and who I can trust and all of it. I can't make any decisions right now. I'm just, feels, completely lost. Take all the time you need, he said, and you have to mean it. No more secrets, no more making my choices for me. If you're about to do something that blows up my life, I need to hear it from you first, not after. I will. I swear. Charlotte stared him down. Feels. This was the guy who kept one promise so hard it derailed both their lives for 7 years. Don't make promises you can't keep, Ethan. I'd rather have an ugly truth than a pretty lie. It's not a lie. I mean it. His eyes didn't move. Heels. I know I have to earn your trust back from zero. I know it could take forever, way more time than I have any right to ask for, but I'm ready to put in the work, for as long as it takes. Charlotte desperately wanted to believe him. Heels. That want was a physical pain in her chest, but wanting it doesn't make it true. We'll see, she whispered. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Somehow she'd hung on to it through all the madness. She pulled it out and saw a flood of notifications. Heels. Panicked friends, demanding cousins, people from work asking if she was okay, and one text from an unknown number. She opened it and her blood went cold. You made a very big mistake today, Charlotte. Heels. You and your helicopter boyfriend are going to regret embarrassing me like that. Heels. I promise you that. It was Nathan. It had to be. Charlotte showed the phone to Ethan. His face went rigid, twisting into something dark and deadly. That was a stark reminder he wasn't just the messed up kid she used to love. He was someone else now. Heels. Something way more dangerous. Block his number, he said, his voice a low growl. Don't you dare reply. I'm handling this. How? Just let me make a couple of calls. The timeline for Nathan's career-ending implosion just got moved up. Heels. Ethan was already grabbing his own phone. Give me 1 minute. He walked away, phone to his ear, his voice dropping into a deep rumble she couldn't make out. Heels. She spots him pacing by the huge windows, just a shadow against the city skyline, hands slicing through the air as his voice gets all sharp and tactical. Charlotte peeks at Nathan's message again. A day ago, that text would have wrecked her. Heels. Sent her into a full-blown panic spiral, thinking about how he could ruin everyone she loved with a snap of his fingers. But nah. Sitting in Ethan's fortress of an apartment, family safe, with Ethan on the phone just dismantling the guy's entire life, feels. It's different. It's not fear anymore. It's rage. Pure, ice-cold fury for the loser who thought he could own her, stick her on a shelf like a prize. Nathan Calloway made one epic mistake. He backed Charlotte Bennett into a corner, and by trapping her, heels, he made her find the one escape route he never saw coming. Payback time. A minute later, Ethan's back. It's done, he says. The feds are moving on him tonight, not tomorrow. They'll have him cuffed within the hour. Heels. He won't even get a chance to make good on his threats. That fast? I pulled a few strings, made it crystal clear we didn't have time to waste. Ethan stops, his eyes locking on hers. He will not hurt you, Charlotte. I'll never let that happen. And there it is. That deep, instinctual need to protect her that's both incredible and incredibly frustrating. Charlotte takes a slow breath, making herself say what needs to be said. I know you mean that, Ethan, but you need to get something straight. Feels. I don't need you to be my shield. I'm not looking to live in some bubble you build for me, safe from all the bad stuff. Her voice was soft but had a steel edge. What I want, what I need, is to be strong enough to handle my own battles. Feels. With you fighting next to me as my partner, not my bodyguard. His look was intense, like he was actually processing her words. I can try, he finally says. It's not going to be easy. My gut will always scream at me to jump in front, feels, to fix the problem before it even gets to you. But I'll fight that. I'll ask you what you need instead of just acting like I know everything. That's literally all I'm asking. Just try. Ethan gives her this slow, careful nod, feels, like if he moves too fast she might just disappear. He reaches out, grabbing her hand, and Charlotte led him. His palm felt warm, rough with calluses, so familiar it made her throat tight. We'll figure this out, he muttered. Feels. I have no clue how yet, and it's probably going to take a while, but we will. Charlotte wanted to believe him so badly. She wanted to think they could build something real from the wreckage of broken promises and 7 years of total silence. Feels. But she'd learned the hard way. Wanting something doesn't make it real. Maybe, she whispered. We'll see. It was all she had to give. And for now, that had to be enough. Sleep was a foreign concept to Charlotte that night. Feels. She just laid there in the guest room, staring up at nothing, her brain playing the last 24 hours on a loop. Feels. The wedding that imploded, the chopper cutting through the sky, Nathan's pathetic threats, Ethan's insane confessions. Every time she even tried to close her eyes, she saw Nathan's face at the altar, twisted up in pure rage and shock. Feels. She saw Ethan walking out of that chaos toward her, like a ghost from some old dream. She saw her own hand reaching for his, choosing the hurricane over the fake safe harbor. Around 3 a.m, she gave up and slid out of bed, feels, feet silent on the cold floor. The penthouse was a massive cave of shadows, with only the far-off city lights breaking the dark. She was halfway to the kitchen when a faint glow told her she wasn't the only one up. Ethan was on the couch in the living room, feels, his laptop bathing his face in a pale blue light. He glanced up when she came in, and you could see the exhaustion carved into his features. "You too?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. "Too many ghosts kicking around in my head." Heels. Charlotte went to the sink, grabbed a glass, and filled it with water. "And you? What's your excuse?" "Just keeping an eye on things," he said. "Making sure the whole Nathan takedown is going according to plan." She brought her water over to the couch and curled up on the far end. "And is it?" For an answer, Ethan just swiveled the laptop so she could see. The screen was a wall of news feeds, a dozen different windows, all screaming headlines. Charlotte leaned closer, her eyes getting wider as she started to read. Feels. Chicago attorney Nathan Calloway, arraigned on federal fraud charges. Morrison and Hale partner implicated in massive money laundering ring. Top lawyer facing conspiracy and wire fraud indictments. That was efficient, Charlotte breathed out. Feels. Her voice way shakier than she liked. "Told you. The whole thing was already built. It was just a matter of when to light the fuse." Ethan snapped the laptop shut, throwing them back into the shadows. "He's in federal custody. They denied bail." Feels. Called him a flight risk. Jennifer is getting grilled as a potential co-conspirator. An hour ago, Morrison and Hale put out a statement saying they're cooperating and have suspended Nathan indefinitely. Feels. Charlotte figured she should feel some kind of relief. Or justice, maybe. Instead, she just felt nothing, a big hollow emptiness. His son, Michael, what's going to happen to him? Jennifer's parents are getting custody. They're up in Wisconsin. Feels totally clean. Feels. The trust I set up for Michael is already active and they've agreed to run it. Ethan paused. He'll be okay, Charlotte. As okay as a kid can be when his entire world just got torched. She took a huge gulp of water, trying to find her balance. 24 hours ago, she was about to marry Nathan Calloway. Now his life was a dumpster fire and he was rotting in a federal holding cell. The speed of it was insane. "How much of this was you?" he asked. "For real." Feels. "How long were you putting this together?" He just watched her for a second, the silence heavy as he decided how much of the story to tell. He let out a sigh. "I started looking into him about 8 months ago." Feels. "The day I saw the newspaper announcement saying he proposed to you, I had to know who this guy was. Had to know if he was good at you." His eyes drilled into hers. "And when I found out he wasn't, I started digging." Feels. The Jennifer connection popped up after a few weeks. The financial crimes took longer. Nathan was slippery, hiding behind shell companies and offshore accounts, but not slippery enough. Once I found that first loose thread, Feels, his whole ugly operation unraveled. Charlotte set her glass down, noticing her hand was shaking a little. "So for months, you knew. You knew he was a fraud. You knew he had a secret family. You knew he was a criminal. And you didn't say a word to me." Feels. "I sent the photographs anonymously." Feels. "You sent anonymous photos," she shot back, her voice low and sharp, like I was some target in an investigation, not a person you supposedly cared about. She reined it in, remembering her parents were sleeping down the hall. "You could have just come to me." Feels. "Ethan, you could have just told me the truth instead of playing games with clues." "I know," he said, his voice quiet, dripping with regret. "You're right. I should have." "You were scared," she said, calling it like she saw it. "Scared of what?" Feels. "That I wouldn't believe you." Feels. "That seeing me again would just hurt you more. That your life with Nathan was the real deal. That you'd moved on, and that I had no right to blow it all up just because I couldn't swast watching you marry someone else." He stopped. Feels. The confession just hanging there in the dark. "I told myself I was doing it to protect you. But the real truth is, I was protecting myself. From hearing you tell me to get lost for good." She just stared at him. Feels. This was the guy who could orchestrate the complete annihilation of another man's life, but he couldn't even bring himself to knock on her door. The whole tragic thing was almost too much. "I spent 7 years, she said softly. Feels. "Convincing myself I was over you. 7 years building up these massive walls around my heart, telling myself that what we had, it was just kid stuff. Not the kind of love that actually lasts. And I almost bought it." Feels. "I almost believed that marrying Nathan was the smart move, the safe move, the adult thing to do." Feels. She held up a hand. "Let me finish. Then you show up yesterday, out of the blue, and every single one of those walls turned to dust. Just gone. And now I know what to do. How am I supposed to trust you when you've been lying to me for 7 years? Even if they were lies to protect me. How do I let you back into my life when I spent so long training myself to live without you?" Ethan was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "I don't expect you to. Not yet, feels. I know that's something I have to earn. But you need to know, Charlotte, I never ever stopped loving you. Not for one day. Every decision, it was always about you. About keeping you safe, even if I couldn't be the one to make you happy, feels. That isn't love, Ethan, she whispered back. That's obsession. The word hit the air between them like a slap. He actually flinched. Maybe, he admitted, his voice almost gone. Maybe it was. Maybe I went to places I shouldn't have, feels. But I'm trying to be better now, trying to be honest. Even when it makes me sound like the last person you should ever trust. Charlotte curled into a ball, pulling her knees to her chest. She felt raw, empty, feels, and just so tired it felt like a physical weight on her shoulders. I don't know what I want. I don't know what this is. It's a conversation, he offered. It's a start. Is it? She shot back. Feels. Or are we just two ghosts haunting a memory? Seeing who fades away first. Ethan shifted on the couch chair. What do you need from me, Charlotte, right now? What can I do to help? She actually thought about it. What did she need? Safety? She had it. Nathan was out of the picture. Her family was close. Ethan would probably set the world on fire for her. The truth? He just handed her the nastiest parts of it. Feels. So what was actually left for them in the wreckage? She finally asked the only question that mattered. I need to know why. Not why you left, we've covered that. But why you came back. And don't say it was my text. You could have ignored it. Feels. You could have sent some other guy to fix it. You could have handled the whole Nathan disaster from the shadows without me ever seeing your face. But you came. You dropped out of the sky in a freaking helicopter and told a room full of people that I was yours. Feels. Why? The silence from Ethan went on so long, Charlotte thought the question was just going to hang there and die. Then barely a whisper. Because I'm selfish. Because for 7 years I lied to myself that staying away was the right thing. Feels. The noble thing, the only way to keep you safe and let you be happy. But when you reached out, when you asked me to come get you, that whole story fell apart. I couldn't lie anymore. The truth is I was gone because I was a coward. Feels. I was scared that if I ever came back, you'd see a ghost. A guy who broke you and didn't deserve a second shot. And yesterday, when you were standing there, I decided I'd rather be a selfish man who tells the truth than a coward who hides. I'd rather you see me and hate my guts for being here than spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd just had the guts to try. Ethan's eyes met hers, heavy with the weight of it all. Feels. I love you, Charlotte. That part never changed. And maybe it is an obsession. Maybe that makes me some kind of monster you should run from. Maybe it does. But it's the only truth I've got left. You wanted the truth. There it is. Feels. Charlotte felt tears coming and shoved them back down. No more crying. She'd cried enough in the last 24 hours to fill a lake. I don't know if love is enough, she said softly. My parents love each other, and it works because they have trust. Feels. They're honest. They deal with stuff together. Can you do that? Can you let me in, or will you always be in the shadows, making my choices because you think you know better? I don't know, Ethan admitted. I want to say yes. Feels. I want to promise I'll never make a move without you, but I can't be sure I can keep it. Every single instinct I have is wrong when it comes to you. I see a threat, and my first move is to wipe it out before you even know it exists. Feels. I see you in pain, and I want to fix it before you even ask. It's just how I'm wired. The honesty was something she could hang on to, even if it made her chest ache. Then maybe this is impossible. Maybe the gap between the man you are and the man I need is just too wide to cross. Maybe, Ethan agreed quietly. Or maybe we find a way to build a bridge together. Maybe you can teach me to fight those instincts, to stop and ask instead of just acting. Feels. And maybe I can teach you that it's okay to let someone else carry the weight sometimes. That leaning on someone isn't the same thing as being weak. It was a nice thought, way more hopeful than anything Charlotte had let herself think about. Feels. A world where they both changed, both healed, and met in the middle. But this wasn't a movie. Real people don't just fix their biggest love and trying hard. I need time, Charlotte said, the words becoming her go-to response. Feels. I have to figure out who I am when I'm not being manipulated by Nathan or hidden away by you. I need to be on my own for a while. I get it. Do you? Because this could be a long while, Ethan. This could be months. It might take way more time, a lot more. Feels. And I can't promise you that when it's done, I'll be able to let you back in. Then I'll wait. Ethan's voice was simple, certain. For as long as it takes. Charlotte wanted to tell him not to. Feels. To just let her go, find some girl who was easier to love, Someone who wasn't carrying around 7 years of baggage and a mountain of broken trust. But the idea felt sharp and cruel, and she was just too worn out to say it. So she just said, "Okay, heels." And then softer, "Okay." They sat there in silence for a long time, watching the city lights paint shadows on the floor. Charlotte found herself staring at Ethan's silhouette, cataloging all the ways the world had changed him. The new scars, heels, the hard lines of his posture, the way he held himself like a man who expected an attack from every direction. Heels. But deep down, under all that, she could still see bits of the boy she used to love. The one whose look made her feel like the only solid thing in a world that was constantly shifting. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan's voice finally cuts in. "Sure, heels. When you were walking down that aisle yesterday, before I got there, were you really going to go through with it? Marry him?" The lie is right there, so easy to grab. She could tell him yes, that she was all in on marrying Nathan, heels, that his dramatic entrance was the only thing that stopped her. But she demanded the truth from him, so she has to give it back. "I don't know," she finally admits. "I was walking, I was saying the stuff, but it was like watching a movie of myself," feels. Like it wasn't real. And when the officiant asked for objections, I remember hoping, praying anyone would say something to just make it stop, feels. Then I heard the helicopter blades and I saw you and it was. Like what? It felt like the world was finally giving me permission to save my own life. A shaky laugh escapes her. It sounds ridiculous. It doesn't. Yes, it does. I'm a grown woman, feels. I shouldn't need the universe to send a chopper to rescue me from my own train wreck decisions. I should have ended it myself, told Nathan to get lost, and just dealt with the consequences like an adult, feels. You were being threatened by a guy who could destroy your family, Ethan reminds her, feels. Quitting wasn't some simple thing. That's the whole point. I let myself get cornered in that mess. I went ahead and ignored every single red flag Nathan threw up because I was just desperate for something that felt normal and secure, feels. I convinced myself our deal was good enough, that I didn't need that insane, all-in kind of love we used to have because that stuff is for kids. She just kept shaking her head. I was playing myself long before Nathan ever did. We all do it, feels. It's how we get by. That's a grim take, maybe, but it's facts. Charlotte had no comeback for that. She downed her water, setting the glass on the table. I got a crash. My mom is going to want a full report in the morning, and I need to be like, feels. Semi-human for it. Yeah, good move. Ethan snapped the top shut and stood up. Charlotte. Yeah? Thanks for actually listening. For not, just booting me out and telling me to get lost forever. I'm still pissed at you, Charlotte shot back. Feels, making it crystal clear. Feels. So you know. I'm still hurt. Completely lost. And I have zero idea if I can ever trust you again. This is not me forgiving you. I know. But it's not you slamming the door in my face either, and I'll take it. As Charlotte got up, only the coffee table separated them. On a whim she couldn't even process, she closed the distance and threw her arms around him. He went completely stiff for a second, like one wrong move would break the spell. Heels. Then, super slowly, his arms circled back around her, holding her like she was about to shatter. Charlotte just let herself melt into it for a single second. Heels. Just to feel what it was like being held by the one guy who knew all her messed up parts and held on even tighter. Then she backed off, putting that wall back up. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Charlotte. She bailed to the guest room and flopped into bed, heels. And for once she actually passed out. When she woke up, sunlight was blasting into the room, and she could smell fresh coffee. Her phone said 9:30 a.m., 6 hours of solid sleep, a freaking miracle. The messages were stacked. Friends, heels. People from work, random cousins who heard the wedding went sideways and were thirsty for the tea. Charlotte swiped them all away and walked to the kitchen. Her mom was there, leaning on the counter with a coffee. She glanced up when Charlotte walked in, heels, the stress practically carved into her face. Morning, sweetie. Heels. How are you? Like I got hit by a bus. Her mom just nodded. Sounds about right. Rebecca pushed a fresh mug across the counter. Your dad's still out. Ethan left about an hour ago. Said he had some meetings he couldn't ditch. Charlotte grabbed the warm mug like a lifeline. Heels. Did he say when he'd be back? This afternoon. Her mom was scanning her face. Do you even want him to come back? Because if you need space, if we need to check into a hotel. I don't know what I want, Charlotte snapped. Heels. Everyone keeps asking me that, and it's always the same answer. I don't know if I want Ethan here or on another planet. I don't know if I'm relieved Nathan's gone or totally freaked out about what's next. I don't know a single thing, Heels. Except that I need this coffee. probably some food, and a shower that lasts for like 3 hours. A small smile flickered on Rebecca's face. I can sort out two of those things. The shower's on you. She hit the fridge, already grabbing what she needed, feels. In seconds, Rebecca was at the stove. Eggs were crackling. Toast was popping up. A classic move for a mom whose hands can't stop when her mind is spinning. Charlotte just watched her mom work the kitchen, feels this wave of love and gratitude hitting her so hard it was hard to breathe. Oh, Mom, feels. Thank you. For not grilling me for answers, for not making me explain leaving Nathan, or whatever the hell this is with Ethan. Just thanks, Rebecca looked over from the pan. Honey, you're my kid. When you've got the words, I'll be here. Until then, my job is just to make sure you eat, sleep, and don't completely fall apart. I think I might fall apart anyway. Feels. Then I'll be there to pick up the pieces, too. The words made Charlotte's eyes burn again. I've made a total disaster of everything, haven't I? The wedding, Nathan, the whole thing, just a complete train wreck. You got out of a situation that was pure poison, feels. Rebecca said, her voice turning to steel. You chose to save yourself instead of walking into a promise that would have destroyed you. That's not a disaster. That's being a badass. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like I'm in the middle of a hurricane, feels. Sometimes being a badass is a hurricane. It's messy and insane and nothing like the fairy tales. Rebecca slid a plate of food at her. Eat. Then we figure out the next move. Charlotte did it, her fork basically moving on its own. She couldn't taste a thing, feels, but knew this was one battle her mom was not going to lose. She cleaned the plate, put it down, and finally looked her mother straight in the eye. They arrested Nathan. Ethan told me it's federal charges, feels. They're not giving him bail. Rebecca gave a slow, deliberate nod. I saw the news this morning. They're saying it might be the biggest financial fraud case in Chicago this year. That Ethan built the whole thing. That he had it all locked and loaded, feels. Just waiting for the signal to light the fuse. And you're terrified of what that means, of the kind of guy who could pull that off. A broken laugh slipped out of Charlotte. Am I that obvious? You're my daughter. I know how you tick. Rebecca held her mug, feels. You're asking yourself if Ethan is just Nathan 2.0. If getting played from the shadows is any different than getting threatened to your face, feels. It's the same thing, right? Both of them just deciding my life for me without even asking. No, Rebecca's tone was final. It's not even in the same universe. Nathan used threats to box you in, to force you into a wedding, feels. He turned your love for us into a weapon to use against you. Ethan, on the other hand, was stacking up evidence against the guy who was hurting you, and he gave you an escape hatch the minute you asked for it. From far away, it might look similar, feels, but the motive behind it is night and day. But he's been watching me for 7 years, Mom, pulling strings I didn't even know existed, making moves that changed my life, keeping you safe, Rebecca cut in, making sure opportunities came your way, feels. That's not control, Charlotte. That's not the same thing. That is. She looked for the words, her voice getting softer. That's a kind of love from someone who has no idea how to show it without wrecking something, and that's not okay. I'm not saying it is, feels. He's got some serious issues he needs to deal with, no doubt. But it is not the same brand of toxic that Nathan was selling. Charlotte wanted to argue, but she had nothing. Her mom was right. There was a huge difference between Ethan's messed up, feels, over-the-top protection and Nathan's cold, calculated evil. Knowing that didn't make Ethan's moves right, but it meant she couldn't just label them both as villains. I don't know if I can be with a guy like that, Charlotte whispered, feels. Someone who thinks protecting me and lying to me are the same. Then don't you dare be with him, feels. So the verdict ain't in until he proves he's not the same guy. Rebecca slides her hand over to Charlotte's. Look, don't just ghost something that feels legit because it's got some damage. Me and your dad are 30 years deep. And let me tell you, feels, love is never clean. People are a hot mess. The point isn't to find some perfect dude. It's about finding one who's willing to own his crap, who actually wants to level up for you. And you think Ethan's that guy? Feels. I think he dropped in on a chopper to pull you out of a fire. I think he spent 7 years as your shadow, and it probably shredded him every single day to stay away. I think in his own messed up way, he's trying to do right by you. Rebecca squeezes her hand, feels. But what I think doesn't matter. The only thing that counts is what you think, what your gut is screaming for, and what you're willing to go to war for in a partner. Charlotte squeezed her eyes shut, letting her mom's words hit, feels. What did she need? What was she willing to put up with? She thought she had it all locked down when she said yes to Nathan. Turns out she'd never been more clueless. I need time, she says, the words feeling totally overused. I gotta get my own feet on the ground before I can figure out what I need from anyone else. So take it. Take all the damn time you want. And if Ethan gets impatient, if he bounces, then he was never your guy in the first place. Feels. Rebecca's voice was a steady anchor in the chaos. Charlotte, you can't build a life on the fear of getting left behind. You have to build it knowing you'll be 100% solid no matter what, with him or without him. Charlotte's eyes flickered open. Feels. She looks at her mom, a tiny smile playing on her lips. When did you get so smart? I've always been this smart. You just weren't ready to hear it until now. A chill silence fell between them as Charlotte finished her coffee. Right on cue, Feels. Her dad wanders out of the guest room, looking like he just survived a tornado. What time is it? He grunts, running a hand through his hair. Almost 10, Rebecca shoots back. Coffee's ready, Feels. Can someone please tell me why I woke up in what looks like a billionaire's crash pad and not my own bed? His eyes dart around the fancy furniture, the insane view. And where's Ethan? He has meetings, Charlotte says. Feels. We're here because it's supposed to be safer than our place. Feels. While this whole mess is getting sorted. Her dad poured some coffee, leaning against the counter. I saw the headlines. Nathan's cuffed. Federal charges. The news is blowing up over it. It is, Charlotte confirmed. Ethan had the receipt. Feels. A whole mountain of them. He just dumped it all on the DA's desk. Her dad was quiet for a long moment, processing the info dump. Then he locks eyes with Charlotte, his gaze dead serious. So how are you really doing with all this? I don't know, Dad. Feels. I'm glad Nathan can't hurt anyone else. It's a relief his threats are just hot air now, but still, I'm just trying to wrap my head around Ethan knowing all of this, and basically sitting on it until I was at my breaking point. Feels. Fair point. Her father takes a slow sip of his coffee. You want my take? What? I think you need to get the hell out of this 5-star prison. Go outside. Get some air. Let your thoughts actually breathe. Hiding in here just waiting for the next crisis, Feels, isn't helping you figure out what you want. Rebecca nods. Your father's right. Let's go to the house. You need your stuff, your own turf. Being stuck in a place that's not yours is messing with your head, Feels. But Ethan said Nathan was in federal custody. Her dad cuts her off. That means he's off the board. We don't have to live like we're in witness protection. A jolt of fear shot through Charlotte. Are you sure that's safe? Feels. I'm sure that sitting here asking if it's safe is exactly what's making you spiral. Her dad puts his mug down with a click. Let's go. We'll swing by your apartment on the way. You can pack a real bag. After that, you can crash with us for a bit, Feels, until you figure out your next move. It sounded way too simple. Feels. Almost dangerously normal. But maybe normal was the one thing she was desperate for, just for a second. Okay, she heard herself agree. Just let me get dressed. We can go. 20 minutes later, the three of them were in her dad's car, heading for her apartment. The city was just the city. Horns blaring, people hustling on the sidewalks, life just rolling on like her entire world hadn't just been detonated. It was messed up, seeing how little anything else had changed. Feels. The car pulls up to her building, and a massive wave of relief hit her seeing something so familiar. Her home, her fortress of solitude, her stuff. She twisted the key in the lock and stepped inside. For the first time since the wedding from hell, Feels, she felt like she could actually breathe. Her mom made a beeline for the kitchen to get a kettle going, while her dad did a full sweep, checking window and door locks, his old-school protector mode fully activated. Feels. Charlotte went to her bedroom and started yanking clothes from her closet, jamming them into a suitcase. Her own clothes, not the generic stuff from Ethan's empty penthouse. She was about halfway through when her phone buzzed. Unknown number, Feels. She almost blew it off, but some gut feeling made her answer. Hello, Charlotte Bennett. The voice on the other end was a woman's. Sharp, professional, and a total stranger. Yes. Who is this? My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a reporter with the Chicago Tribune. Feels. I'm on the Nathan Calloway arrest story, and I was hoping you'd talk to me about your relationship with him. A rock plummeted in Charlotte's stomach. How did you get this number? Feels. You're listed as Nathan Calloway's fiancée in public records and all over his socials. I'm calling everyone in his circle, work and personal. I hear you were supposed to get married yesterday before things went sideways. I have no comment, Feels. Charlotte said, her voice completely dead. I know this is a tough time for you, but the public deserves to know what went down. The public has zero rights to my life. Charlotte's voice was pure ice now. Feels. I will not be talking about Nathan, the wedding, or anything. Don't call this number again. The line went dead before the reporter could even reply. But Charlotte stood there, shaking. This was just the start, wasn't it? The nonstop reporters, the nosy questions, the gossip. Her private train wreck was about to become a public circus. Her phone screamed again, instantly, another number she didn't recognize. Charlotte let it go to voicemail. Then another call came in, and another. Charlotte. Eels. Her mother was standing in the doorway. Who is blowing up your phone? Reporters. They want the scoop on Nathan, she whispered. On the wedding. A cold dread started twisting in her gut. Mom, this is going to be everywhere. The whole world is going to know. Eels. They're all going to have questions, their own insane theories. And hey, look at me. Rebecca crossed the room, putting her hands on Charlotte's shoulders. You don't have to explain jack squat to anyone. Not to them, not to the wedding guests. Nobody. Eels. Whatever happened between you and Nathan is your business. You decide what you share, when you share it, and everyone else can mind their own damn business. Charlotte nodded, trying to get her breathing under control. A text notification made her phone vibrate. Then another. Then 3 more. One after another. Her eyes dropped to the screen and all the blood drained from her face. Eels. They were all from random numbers, but every single message was the same kind of poison. Is it true you left Nathan Calloway at the altar? Did you know the feds were coming for him? Sources say you left with another man. True or false? Eels. Were you an accomplice in Nathan's fraud schemes? That last one made Charlotte want to launch her phone through a wall. How dare they? How could they even suggest she was part of Nathan's scams when she was just another one of his victims? Eels. Another call broke through the noise. This time, Charlotte recognized the number. It was the art gallery where she worked. She answered. Charlotte, it's Margaret. Her boss's voice was stretched thin. I'm going to need you to work from home for a few days. Eels.
What? Why?
We've been getting calls from reporters all morning asking about you and Nathan Calloway. It's causing a total circus here. I think it's for the best if you take some personal time until this whole thing dies down. It felt like a sucker punch. Eels. You're benching me. I am giving you paid leave. It's what's best, Charlotte.
For the gallery, I understand.
Charlotte's voice was hollow.
For how long? Let's say
2 weeks. We'll see where we are and clear.
we're cutting
Until we know if this scandal is going to torch your reputation. Fine, Charlotte said. 2 weeks. She hung up and met her mother's gaze. I just got put on leave from my job because the media won't stop blowing them up about Nathan. Eels. Rebecca's face went dark. They can't do that, but they can. And they did. Charlotte felt like she'd been scooped out. Honestly, I don't even blame them. Who needs this kind of 3-ring circus? But you're innocent. You did nothing. Eels. I was literally about to marry a guy who's now busted for federal fraud. That fact alone makes me toxic by association. Charlotte just collapsed onto her bed, the suitcase she was packing totally forgotten. So this is it now, huh? Eels. Everyone just assuming I was in on it because I loved the guy. Everyone wanting answers I don't even have because I never knew the truth myself. Her phone kept buzzing like a psycho hornet. More texts, more calls. Eels. Freaking vultures trying to get a piece of the train wreck. Charlotte mashed the power button, shutting it off completely before just letting it drop. I can't do this, she whispered. Not right now. Her dad had shown up in the doorway at some point. Eels. His voice was steady, absolute. We're going back to Ethan's. Eels. We'll ride out this media hurricane there. You don't have to face any of this until you're ready. A part of Charlotte wanted to fight it, to say she was strong enough when... But that was a lie, she wasn't. The world was crushing her, and she needed air. Okay, she breathed out. Okay, let's just go. The ride to Ethan's skyscraper was dead silent, with Charlotte wedged between her parents like a little kid being evacuated from ground zero. Eels. Her phone stayed off, shoved deep in her purse, but it felt like a brick. All those messages she hadn't heard, questions she hadn't read, from all those people who thought her private hell was their public entertainment. When they got inside, Eels. Ethan was already there, a silhouette against the city lights with a phone glued to his ear. He looked up, and in a split second, his whole vibe switched from corporate killer to pure raw worry. He ended the call without even a goodbye. What's wrong? Eels. He shot out, his eyes locked on Charlotte. Reporters, her father said straight up. They got Charlotte's number somehow. Her job put her on indefinite leave. We decided it was safer here. A muscle in Ethan's jaw twitched. I should have seen this coming. Eels. I should have swapped your number, put more security in place. Stop, Charlotte snapped. Her voice was way harsher than she wanted, but she was too damn tired to care. Just stop trying to fix everything. Feels. This isn't some problem you can solve by making a few calls or digging up dirt. This is the price tag for being tied to someone like Nathan. There's no shield for this, only time. Ethan looked like he was about to argue, but he actually choked it back. Charlotte could practically see him fighting every instinct to just jump in and take over. It was a tiny thing, but it was everything. Feels. Okay, he said, his voice way softer now. What do you need? I need to not exist for a while. I need the world to forget I'm even here until this is done. I can make that happen. I've got a place upstate, totally off the grid. Feels. No one knows about it except my security team. You could stay there as long as you want. No reporters, no questions. For a hot second, she almost screamed yes. The fantasy of just vanishing into the woods somewhere, into this secret billionaire bunker, Feels, sounded like heaven. But then reality slapped her back. Running away fixes nothing. It just delays the inevitable. No, she said. Thank you, but no. I can't keep hiding. I have to figure out how to face this. Her mom put a hand on her arm. Feels. You don't have to face it alone, sweetie. I know. But I also can't have other people fighting my battles for me. That's how I got into this whole disaster in the first place. Charlotte looked Ethan dead in the eye. Feels. I let Nathan call all the shots because I thought he knew best. Feels. I let you shield me from things I didn't even know were happening. It's time I started making my own calls, no matter how hard they are. Ethan gave her a slow, serious nod. What's your first call? Charlotte thought about it. What was the first real step to taking back her life? I need a lawyer, she said, and not one of Nathan's cronies. Someone with zero connection to him. Feels. I need to know my legal exposure if I can get dragged into his mess. I have to know what I'm really fighting, instead of just being spooked by shadows. I know someone, Ethan started, but Charlotte put up a hand to stop him. Not your someone. My someone. Feels. I have to do this myself. She could see the battle in his eyes, the urge to protect her fighting with the promise to let her stand on her own. Finally, he just said, okay. Then Charlotte's dad spoke up. I'll help you look. We can research firms, Feels, make some calls together. But the final call on who you hire is 100% yours. That sounded like a compromise she could handle. Charlotte nodded. Thank you. The next few days were a weird kind of limbo. Feels. Charlotte stayed at the penthouse but lived on her laptop, digging into lawyers and reading every single article about Nathan's case. The news was brutal. Nathan's empire crumbling had opened the floodgates. Feels. Old clients were popping up with horror stories. Ex-employees were leaking dirt, and reporters were digging up every shady deal he'd ever made. Jennifer got scooped up too, charged as a partner in crime on the money laundering. Feels. Pictures of her in handcuffs being led from her house were on the front page of every paper. A whole mess of feelings swirled in Charlotte seeing it. A dark part of her was satisfied. Jennifer was getting what she deserved. Feels. But another part just ached for Michael, the little boy who just lost both his parents to their own greed. Feels. Charlotte's name would pop up in the article sometimes, but mostly as a footnote. Calloway's fiancée, Charlotte Bennett, ditched him at the altar the day before his arrest. Or sources say Bennett had no clue about Calloway's illegal side hustle. Feels. It looked like nobody actually thought she was involved, which was a small blessing. But that didn't stop the public. Her social media was a dumpster fire. Some people were supportive, saying she dodged a bullet. A lot more were just nasty. Feels. Calling her an idiot or a gold digger for being so blind. Charlotte nuked every social app off her phone after the first day, deciding to just ghost the internet for a while. She finally picked a lawyer, a woman named Patricia Morris, Feels, who was a beast in white-collar crime and famous for not giving a damn about the media circus. Feels. Patricia went over every detail Charlotte could remember about Nathan's business, and then she delivered the verdict in a cool, professional voice that made Charlotte want to cry from sheer relief. You're in the clear, Feels. Patricia told her at their second meeting. The prosecution might call you as a witness, but there's absolutely nothing connecting you to any crime. You were deliberately kept in the dark. If anything, you were just another one of his victims. Feels. Charlotte walked out of that office, feeling like she could finally breathe again after being underwater for weeks. Feels. She wasn't facing charges. She wasn't getting sucked into some legal black hole as anything more than a witness. Nathan had played her, sure, but he'd also kept her from being an accomplice. That night, she told Ethan they needed a real talk. Feels. not the careful tiptoeing they'd been doing around the elephant in the room. They ended up on the penthouse balcony, the whole city spread out like a sea of lights below them. Charlotte was gripping a wine glass she wasn't even drinking, heels, just needing something to hold on to. "I've been thinking," she started, "about what you said, about wanting to be in my life, but not knowing how to do it right." Ethan just stood there, giving her the floor. "I don't think I'm ready for a relationship, heels. Not with you, not with anybody." She had to figure out who she was again, who she was when her life wasn't wrapped around the guy next to her. Charlotte took a deep breath. "But I don't want you out of my life, either. I need you to be different." Heels. Less of a protector, more real, more of a partner and less of a guardian. "I can do that," Ethan said, his voice quiet but solid. "Or I can try. This is going to be a learning experience for both of us." Charlotte finally took a sip of wine. "I have to learn to ask for help instead of waiting for a hero, and you have to learn to offer it without taking over." Maybe, just maybe, they could figure it out. "What does that look like for real?" he asked. "I don't know yet." Heels. "All right, let's start over, friends. We're figuring out who we are now, not 7 years ago. No crazy promises, no pressure." Ethan just stayed quiet for a hot minute. "And what if it's only ever friendship?" he finally asked. Charlotte shot back, voice steady, heels. "If that's all you want from me, then that's what you get. I can't promise you anything else right now except total honesty about my feelings and what I need." "That's way more than I deserve," Ethan admitted. "After everything," heels, "I have no right to even ask for that much." "Maybe," she said, "but it's on the table. Take it or leave it." "I'll take it." Ethan looked right at her. "Whatever you're willing to give, I'm taking it, and I'll work my ass off to earn more." Charlotte nodded, heels, and this massive weight in her chest finally started to ease up. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it felt real. And right now, real was everything. 2 weeks after the wedding implosion, Charlotte was back in her own place. Heels. Her parents begged her to stay. Ethan offered his house, but nope. She needed her own space. Had to prove she could stand on her own. Then the gallery called, wanting her back. Heels. Apparently, the media dumpster fire had died down enough for them to not see her as a liability anymore. Charlotte was tempted to tell them exactly where to shove their job offer, but let's be real, she needed the cash and the routine. So, heels. She swallowed her pride and went back. It was weird. Her coworkers were walking on eggshells, bouncing between being super polite and dying to know the gossip. But Charlotte just put her head down, did the work, and clammed up about Nathan the wedding, heels. They got the message pretty quick. Ethan started calling every few days. Never pushing, just checking in. Sometimes they'd talk for hours about random stuff. Books, movies, old times, future plans, heels. Other times the calls were short and awkward as they figured out how to orbit each other without the gravity of their past crushing them. Charlotte also started therapy, something she should have done ages ago. Heels. Dr. Lisa Martinez was this sharp, no BS woman in her 50s who didn't let Charlotte get away with anything. "You've got a pattern," she said flat out in their 4th session. "You choose relationships where you can hide," heels, "where you never have to be your whole self because the other guy isn't even looking for it." Nathan didn't want a partner. He wanted a hot accessory. That felt safe because you never had to risk being truly vulnerable. "And Ethan?" Charlotte asked, heels. "Ethan wanted to be your knight in shining armor, which meant you never had to save yourself. Also safe. Also a way to dodge being fully in charge of your own life." Dr. Martinez leaned forward, heels. "The real question, Charlotte, is what do you want? Not what's safe, not what everyone expects. What do you actually want for yourself?" That question was on a loop in her head for days. What did she want? Heels. She'd spent her whole life being what other people needed her to be. She forgot to even ask herself. The answer, when it finally hit, was stupidly simple. She wanted to matter. Not as a wife, not as some broken project for a guy to fix, but just as her, heels. She wanted work that meant something. Friendships that were real. A life that was 100% hers. 3 months after Nathan's arrest, she quit the gallery. The idea had been cooking for weeks. Then one Tuesday, heels, she just walked into Margaret's office and handed in her resignation. "I appreciate the opportunity," Charlotte said, all cool and professional. "But it's time for me to move on. This is my 2 weeks' notice." Margaret looked shocked but didn't argue. Heels. Charlotte had a gut feeling she was secretly relieved. Heels. I mean, having the almost wife of a convicted felon on staff probably wasn't great for business. Charlotte used those last 2 weeks to polish resume and hit up every contact she had in the art world. She had an art history degree and 5 years of experience. Deals. Somebody had to need that, right? The offer came from the last place she expected, a nonprofit that used art to help at-risk kids heal. They needed someone to run their programs. Deals. Someone who knew the fancy art scene but also got the tough reality these kids were living. The salary was less than half of what she used to make. The job was going to be harder, messier, and a total emotional roller coaster. But sitting there, Deals, hearing the director talk about the kids they were helping, something just clicked. "When can you start?" the director asked. 2 weeks, Charlotte said, and for the first time in what felt like forever, a little spark of hope lit up inside her. Deals. She called Ethan that night to spill the beans. His reaction was pure hype. "Charlotte, that's amazing. Congratulations." "Thanks. I'm freaking out, honestly. I've never done anything like this." "You're gonna kill it," Ethan said. Deals, his voice just full of warmth. "Those kids are so lucky to have you. We'll see." Deals. "I might just go down in a blaze of glory. And if you do, you'll get back up. You always do." A small smile spread across her face, even though he couldn't see it. "When did you get so much faith in me? I always had it." Deals. "I was just god-awful at showing it." They talked for another hour, and at one point she found herself actually laughing at something he said. A real deep-down laugh. When they hung up, she realized she was happy. Genuinely happy. It had been a long time. Nathan's trial was that spring. Charlotte was called to the stand, and she walked into that courtroom, chin up, and just told the truth. About the engagement, the threats, the exact second she found out about his whole other life. Deals. Nathan just sat there at the defense table, looking pathetic, while his lawyer whispered in his ear. When she was done, Charlotte walked out and never looked back. Whatever happened to Nathan Calloway was not her circus, not her monkeys. Deals. She told her side. The rest was up to the justice system. The jury found him guilty on all charges: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. He got a sentence of 12 years in federal prison. Jennifer got 8 years for being his partner in crime. Deals. Charlotte read about it in the paper, and all she felt was closure. That chapter of her life was officially over. 6 months into the new job, Charlotte was in the studio, watching a 15-year-old girl named Maya working on a self-portrait. Deals. Maya had been bouncing around the foster system her whole life. She had every reason to be mad at the world. But when she painted, all that anger just melted away, and she got super focused and calm. "That's beautiful," Charlotte said quietly. Deals. Not wanting to mess up her flow. Maya glanced over, suspicious of the compliment, like most of the kids were at first. "It's not finished, I know, but it's still beautiful." Maya turned back to the canvas, but Charlotte saw a tiny smile on her face. Deals. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Dinner this week? Something I want to talk to you about." This was their new normal. Dinner every week or two, slowly, carefully, putting their friendship back together, piece by piece. It was cautious. Deals. Sometimes awkward, but it was real. Charlotte had learned stuff about Ethan she never knew before. He hated mushrooms. He was a total sci-fi nerd. And he'd taught himself to play piano while they were apart. Deals. All because she once mentioned she loved piano music. Deals. Charlotte texted back, "Thursday work, that new Italian spot?" The reply came back instantly. "Perfect, 7 p.m. See you then." Deals. Charlotte shoves her phone in her pocket and turns back to Maya, who's painting some serious fire into the portrait's eyes, a look so real it's almost unnerving. "Yo, where did you learn to do that?" she asks. Maya just shrugs it off. "Dunno. I just do." Deals. Charlotte's like, "Ever thought about art school?" But the words just hang there, can't afford it. A brick wall of a reply. There are ways Charlotte pushes, scholarships, programs for talent like yours. I could help you look. Deals. Maya's brush literally freezes. She looks at Charlotte, her eyes a mix of pure hope and abject terror. "You think I'm actually good enough?" Charlotte locks eyes with her. "I think it'd be a crime to let a gift like that just rot." Deals. "But it's gotta be your call." She plants the seed and hopes for the best. Fast forward to Thursday night. Charlotte's getting ready for dinner, and you can tell this ain't just dinner with a friend. She's picking the dress, doing her hair just right. Deals. And then plot twist, she pulls out the silver bracelet Ethan gave her for her 18th birthday, a relic from a life she thought was buried forever. Deals. This thing's been hidden in her jewelry box for years. Too painful to look at, but too important to toss. Now, it feels like a missing piece, a symbol of promises that literally survived death and second chances pulled back from the edge. Deals. Ethan's already there when she arrives, radiating a nervousness she's never seen on him. He stands up when she gets to the table, total old school move that hits right in the feels. You look beautiful, he says, barely breathing. Thanks, feels. You look like you're about to get executed. What's up? They order, trying to fill the silence with boring small talk. But you can feel it. Something big is about to drop. And it does, right after the food shows up. He takes a shaky breath, feels. I'm shutting down the security company, he says. Just like that, Charlotte's fork stops midair. What? Why? I built it for all the wrong reasons, he admits, his voice low. To be powerful, so nobody could ever hurt me or my people again. Feels, but that's not who I am anymore. Feels. He looks her dead in the eye. I don't want to live in a fortress waiting for the next fight. I want to build something. Something that actually helps people. What are you thinking? She asks. There's this foundation I've been working with. They give security training to survivors of domestic violence. Women with no cash, no safe house, nothing. I want to do that. Full time. Feels. I want to use my skills to help people who have zero defense. And just like that, Charlotte's heart melts on the spot. Ethan, that's amazing. It means giving up a lot, he tells her. The money, the sick penthouse. Gotta sell it all, feels. But I've saved enough. I can finally do work that matters, not just work that pays. He pauses, and the next words cost him everything. I wanted to tell you because you're the reason. Watching you walk away from your job for those kids, feels. Choosing purpose over a paycheck. You showed me how messed up my priorities were. Charlotte reaches out, her hand landing on his. I'm so proud of you, she whispers. They talk all through dinner, tearing down one life to build another, feels. And somewhere in all that, Charlotte feels the walls she built around her heart just turn to dust. She didn't even notice it happening. She's falling in love with Ethan all over again. Or maybe she never stopped. Feels. Maybe she was just waiting for him to become this man. Feels. Ethan, she says, cutting him right off. He stops, looking worried. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, she says. I've just been thinking about us. He just waits, his face impossible to read. Feels. Ethan's whole vibe is guarded. You can tell he's protecting his heart. When I said I needed time, she starts, that we had to be friends first. I meant it. It was the right move. But she takes the plunge. But I think I'm ready for more now, if you are, feels, if you still want that. The look on his face is like the sun blasting through storm clouds, pure hope and insane relief. Charlotte, I've wanted that since the second I saw you again. I was just waiting for you. I'm ready, she says, or ready to try, feels. It's going to be messy. Some days I'll get scared and push you away, and some days you'll want to protect me from stuff I have to handle myself. But I think we can get through it, if we both try. I'm willing, Ethan says, no hesitation at all, feels. I'll try for as long as you let me. A smile finally hits Charlotte's lips, and 7 years of tension just vanishes from her chest. Then let's try, feels. They leave the restaurant, walking side by side with this electric energy buzzing between them. At her car, Ethan pulls her into a hug, warm, solid, everything she's been missing. Thank you, he whispers into her hair, his voice thick, for giving us another shot, for not giving up on me when I gave you every reason to. Thank you for coming back, she whispers back. Feels, for keeping your promise. They just stand there for a minute, holding on to each other in a quiet parking garage. Finally, Ethan pulls back just enough to see her. Can I kiss you? He asks, his voice totally raw. Feels. She answers by getting on her toes and kissing him. This was nothing like their first kiss. This wasn't some kid's crush. This was a kiss between two survivors. Two people who got broken and put themselves back together, who knew exactly what this choice meant. Feels. When they pull apart, they're both smiling. So, Ethan asks, his voice softer, what now? We just let it happen. One day at a time. No master plans, no forcing it. We just, see, I can do that, he says. Good, feels. She shoots back, because I am so done with men who think they need to have all the answers. Ethan laughs. Fair enough. How about a deal? I'll work on having fewer answers if you work on asking for help when you need it. Deal. Feels. The next year is a slow burn, a story written in moments she never saw coming. She and Ethan build their new life like people who know how easily things can shatter. Yeah, there were bumps. Times his old bodyguard instincts kicked in and he tried to fix her problems. Times her fierce independence made her pull back. But every single time they talked it out. They learned each other's triggers and battle scars, the feels. Charlotte's program at the nonprofit just explodes. She gets 3 of her kids into art schools on full rides. She hustles for grants, builds a curriculum, and watches these forgotten kids find their own futures. The work is tough, feels. Sometimes it's heartbreaking, but it's real in a way her old life never was. 6 months after blowing up his old company, Ethan's foundation is up and running. He recruits old Spec Ops guys, retraining them to help survivors, feels. Teaching women how to spot danger, how to fight back, and how to disappear. He teams up with shelters and legal aid, finding the cops who still give a damn. In their first year, they help over 200 women and their kids escape the darkness. Slowly, heals. Charlotte's dad starts to see the change in Ethan, seeing how he treats his daughter with total respect. Her mom always knew he was a good guy deep down. She just needed to see him earn it again. By their first anniversary, heals, both parents have welcomed Ethan back into the family. Heals. The drama is officially over, and then he proposes. On the exact anniversary of the day he completely destroyed her wedding. Total power move. Heals. No massive spectacle this time. No last-ditch crazy move. It was just the two of them, back on the same rooftop where they'd made promises as kids, under a sky full of city-dulled stars. Look, I know weddings are a whole thing for you, Ethan said. Heals. Holding out a plain, simple ring, the total opposite of the monster diamond Nathan used to try and lock her down. So if you want to hit the courthouse or wait another decade, whatever you need, I'm your guy. Heals. Charlotte glanced from the silver band to his face. I want a small wedding, she said, just family, something legit this time, not some big performance. Whatever you want, we do, he said, his voice soft. So yeah, heals. She was going to marry him. 4 months later, they did it in her parents' backyard, the same yard where Ethan first showed up ages ago, his entire life shoved in a single trash bag. Charlotte rocked a simple vintage dress. Ethan wore a suit he'd had for years. Heals. Only 30 people showed up, because they were the only 30 people who actually mattered. When it was time for objections, the only sound was Charlotte's mom crying happy tears into a tissue. And when they finally kissed, heals, a part of her soul she didn't even know was gone just clicked right back into place. It wasn't about being completed. She'd for sure figured out she was a one-woman army. Nah, this was about a partnership, heals. About facing the world with a dude who saw all her broken parts and without even blinking, chose to stand right there with her. Heals. The reception was basically just a backyard barbecue, and at one point, Charlotte's dad cornered Ethan. You take care of my girl, he said. It wasn't a threat, but it wasn't a friendly suggestion either. I will, Ethan promised. Heals. And you could feel the unspoken part. He would listen to her, trust her, be her partner, not her warden. Her dad just stared him down for a long, heavy second before his whole face changed. He nodded, then yanked Ethan into a rough hug. Heals. Good to have you back in the family, son. Boom. Fast forward 2 years. Charlotte's at her nonprofit office when Maya wanders in, still covered in paint from the art studio. She's 17 now, heals, walking with a confidence that seemed impossible for the scared 15-year-old girl Charlotte first met. I got in, Maya choked out, her voice shaking. A full ride. They want me this fall. Charlotte shot out of her chair and crushed her in a hug, heals, both of them crying tears of pure victory. I knew you could do it, heals. I never doubted you.
I wouldn't have even applied if you hadn't forced me.
Maya whispered into her shoulder. I never thought I was good enough. You were always good enough, Charlotte said quietly. You just needed someone to help you see it. Long after Maya left, practically floating out the door, Charlotte fell back into her chair, her eyes scanning the pictures on her desk. One of her and Ethan on their wedding day. Another of her program's first graduating class. A picture of her parents, heals, and a candid shot, one of her and Ethan at a fundraiser for his foundation, both of them cracking up at some inside joke. Just then her phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. Dinner's on me tonight. At home a smile spread across her face as she texted back, heals. Perfect. I'll get the wine. While she packed up, her mind flashed back to the woman she used to be 2 years ago. A woman standing in some ridiculously overpriced bridal suite, heals, about to marry a guy who was systematically taking her world apart without her even noticing. She remembered the desperate last-second text she shot off to a man she hadn't talked to in 7 years, never actually thinking he'd show up, heals, but she was out of options. If you had told that woman, she'd end up here, happy, married to Ethan, doing a job that actually meant something, she would have laughed right in your face. The road from that hotel room to this office was a twisted, painful mess, heals, absolutely nothing like the fairy tales she used to buy into, heals. But it was real, and it was hers. That alone made it better than any storybook garbage. Charlotte locked her office and walked to her car, already thinking about dinner wine and a conversation she was finally ready to have with Ethan. About maybe, just maybe, thinking about a family one day. Not yet, obviously. They both had moves to make first, but someday. When the time was right. Because that was the real lesson here. Feels. There's no such thing as perfect timing. No magic moment where everything lines up and the world feels safe. Life is a beautiful, chaotic disaster, full of things like rogue helicopters trying to crash your wedding. Feels. All you can do is find someone who's willing to wade through that disaster with you, and then actually do the work to build something solid. As night fell, Charlotte drove home. She passed the gallery that used to be her entire universe. Feels. The apartment where Nathan had revealed his true terrifying colors. The garden where her life shattered and then started over. She drove right past all the ghosts of the woman she used to be. All the broken pieces that somehow, against all logic, Feels, had glued themselves back together into something whole. And when she walked into the little house they'd bought 6 months ago, she found Ethan in the kitchen, completely butchering the lyrics to some song only he could hear, making pasta. Feels. He looked up when she came in, and a smile exploded across his face, a smile that still made her stomach flip. "Hey," he said, pulling off his headphones. "How was the day?" Charlotte put the wine on the counter and walked straight into his arms, Feels, burying her head in his chest. "Maya got into art school," she said into his shirt. "Full scholarship. That's incredible." Ethan held her tighter, his hand stroking her hair. "You did that. You changed that kid's life." "She changed her own life," Feels. Charlotte mumbled. "I just handed her a few tools." Same difference. They stood there for a minute, just swaying in the quiet kitchen, totally in sync, wrapped up in the kind of comfortable silence you only get when you know someone's soul. Feels. Charlotte finally leaned back just enough to look up at him. "There's something I want to talk to you about," she said. "Okay. Should I be nervous?" "No, but maybe you should pour that wine first." He poured 2 glasses, and they moved to the sofa, Feels, falling into their regular spots. Charlotte curled up in the corner, Ethan angled towards her. The house was tiny compared to his old glass fortress of a penthouse, but it was theirs. They'd picked it out together, painted it together, and filled it, Feels, one thing at a time, with stuff that actually mattered to them. "So," Ethan said, "what's up?" Charlotte took a sip of wine, then a deep breath. "I've been thinking about kids. Not right now. But someday," Feels. "And I guess I just wanted to see where your head's at on that." Ethan went completely still for a second, letting the bomb drop. "Honestly," he said, his voice low, "the thought scares the hell out of me. Because I have no idea how to be a father. Feels. I never had one, a real one. Feels. There's no manual in my brain for how to do it right. I don't know how to be a mother either," Charlotte shot back. "Not a perfect one. Nobody does. But you had good parents. You saw what a real family looks like. And now you have me. You have my parents. You've got good intel all around you now." She reached out and covered his hand with hers. "I'm not asking you to decide tonight. I need to know if it's something you could ever want. With me." Feels. Ethan stared down at their hands, his thumb tracing lines on her skin. "What if I screw it up? What if I become one of those dads who tries to control everything because he's terrified of the world?" "Then I'll tell you you're being an idiot," Feels. "And you'll work on it," she said. "Just like that. Just like you've worked on every other damn thing." Charlotte gave his hand a squeeze. "You aren't the same guy you were 2 years ago, Ethan. You fought. You changed." Feels. "You figured out how to let people in instead of trying to protect them from a distance. Why would this be any different?" "Because the stakes are way higher," he whispered. "Because a kid deserves more than a dad who's still dealing with his own baggage." Feels. "Every single parent on earth is still dealing with their own baggage. That's called being human." Charlotte leaned into him. "I'm not asking for perfect. I'm just asking if you can picture it. Us. A family." Feels. "Is that a future you'd want to work towards?" A long, heavy silence filled the room. Then, very slowly, Ethan nodded. "Yeah," he breathed out. "Yeah, I can picture it. It terrifies me. But I want it. With you. God, I want it." Tears started to fill Charlotte's eyes. The good kind. "Okay, someday then, when we're ready." "Someday," he agreed. And they just sat there as the sky outside went black, mapping out their hopes and fears and the 1,000 different ways their future could go. Feels. And for the first time, like ever, Charlotte wasn't scared of what was coming. She finally knew she was strong enough to handle it. And she knew that handling it with someone having her back made all the difference. Feels. Their talk went on so long that the pasta burned, totally forgotten until the smoke alarm started screaming, They just laughed, got a pizza, and were amazed at how they couldn't have a serious conversation and cook at the same time. It was a mess. Feels. It was chaos. It was the exact kind of life Charlotte was starting to love. Later that night, curled up in bed with Ethan's arm locked around her, listening to the city sounds, she thought about the crazy road that got her here. Feels. About the promises that were broken and the ones that were kept. The wedding that never happened and the one that did. The 7 years of nothing and the 2 years of building something real. She thought about Nathan, rotting in a federal prison. Feels. She thought about Michael, now 6 years old, being raised by awesome grandparents with a trust fund that would give him a future his parents almost threw away. She thought about Maya and all the other kids whose lives she changed. Feels. Lives turned around by art and by someone just believing in them. And she thought about Ethan. About his own insane journey from a terrified 16-year-old kid to the man sleeping next to her. How he had to tear himself down to nothing and rebuild. Feels. Just to figure out how to love someone in a way that fixes things instead of breaking them. Feels. Finally, she thought about herself. About the girl so desperate for safety she nearly chained herself to a monster, and the woman she was now. A woman who gets that real security isn't about walls or bank accounts. It comes from inside. Feels. From knowing who you are. From having people around who love you for you, not for what you have. From building a life that doesn't feel like a lie. You awake? Ethan's voice is a low rumble in the dark. Yeah, just thinking. About? Feels. About how grateful I am, she whispers. For all of it, even the messed up parts. Especially the messed up parts. They showed me what I was really looking for. Ethan pulls her in closer. I'm thankful too, he says, that you gave me a second shot. Feels. For being patient while I figured out how to be a whole person again. We figured it out together, Charlotte corrects him softly. That's the whole point. Feels. And they fall asleep just like that, tangled up together in a bed they picked out, in a house they're turning into a home, piecing together a future that's messy and real and 100% theirs. And if she dreams about helicopter blades, Feels. White dresses and promises made on a skyscraper roof, they're good dreams this time. Just poison is gone. They're just part of her story now. The story of how she learned to be her own hero, and how by saving herself, Feels, she found her way back to the one guy who was always worth saving in the first place.